You think you're manifesting. But what if you're sending the universe the exact opposite signal of what you want? Let's decode the miscommunication hiding in plain sight. Let's be direct about this. You've probably read books on manifesting, visualized with dedication, maybe even written out your intentions 100 times. You've created mood boards, you've sat in stillness, repeated affirmations, lit the candles, meditated on your ideal life. And yet, nothing. The dream home? Not here. That financial breakthrough? Still pending. The deep, connected love you've longed for? Feels like a mirage. You begin to wonder, is it me? Is something broken? Is the universe ignoring me? No, you're not broken, but your signal might be. Today, we begin something that may disrupt everything you thought you knew about how this reality works. This isn't about cliches. This isn't about saying nice things to yourself and hoping for the best. This isn't even about belief in a spiritual system. This is about precision, the kind of precision used in quantum systems. And more specifically, it's about the errors, silent, hidden, and recurring errors that you may be unconsciously embedding in every single signal you send out. You're about to understand why, despite all your effort, the universe seems to reply with nothing. No answer, no sign, no shift. This is not a message of discouragement. It's a revelation, because once you spot the error code in the transmission, you can rewrite it. What we'll unpack throughout this entire series is simple to understand, yet immensely layered in its depth. There are 5 key mistakes, 5 behaviors, mental patterns, energy signals that silently instruct the universe to bypass your request. Like corrupted data, they scramble your desires, invert your intentions, and return distorted results, or no results at all. They're subtle, they're automatic, they're often subconscious, and worst of all, they sound like you're doing the right thing. Let's be clear about what you can expect in this video. You're going to learn how quantum mechanics, yes, the same physics that govern particles and photons, mirrors the behavior of your subconscious when it comes to intention, emotion, expectation, and identity. We will break down the top 5 quantum misfires, and we'll expose 50 distinct ways they manifest in your daily mindset, language, energy, and behavior. Every one of these 50 has the potential to scramble your signal, to send the exact opposite of what you think you're asking for. But knowledge isn't enough, so we won't stop at identification. You'll be shown how to recognize the pattern, track its origin, and replace it with aligned action and authentic, unshakable frequency. The universe doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It doesn't react to words on a vision board. It doesn't decode your conscious declarations. It responds to vibration, and vibration is determined by your subconscious programming, your expectations, your identity, and your emotion in the now, not the future. Your reality isn't responding to what you want. It's responding to who you are. Now let's set the tone for what's to come. You're going to explore why wanting can create repulsion. You're going to understand how positive thinking sometimes equals energetic denial. You're going to learn how subtle doubts become quantum roadblocks. You're going to see how your subconscious edits your intentions without your permission. And you'll begin to hold a mirror to the exact version of you that the universe can't help but ignore. That's not poetic. It's algorithmic. It's energetic. And it's happening whether you're aware of it or not. So for the next few hours, this is your focus. This is your lab. This is your signal booster. We're about to shift from force to frequency, from trying to align to being aligned, from fragmented energy to signal clarity, from pleading with the universe to commanding with coherence. The only thing left to ask yourself is this: are you ready to finally hear the response you've been waiting for? Let's begin. Next, we unravel a question you've likely never asked, because no one tells you it needs asking. You've been sending signals. You've been knocking on that door. But is anyone even receiving them? You've knocked and knocked, but no one's home. Now that you know the signals are being sent, let's ask, is anyone receiving them? You've been persistent. You've asked for clarity. You've focused on growth. You've affirmed your intentions. You've knocked repeatedly, maybe with more energy, more faith, and more urgency than ever before. But the door doesn't open. There's no echo. No return call. Just a blank space that leaves you wondering if you were ever heard at all. That silence isn't apathy from the universe. It's a delivery issue. And the issue isn't that you're not knocking. It's that no one's answering. Because no one can hear you. Here's why. Every signal you send to the universe must pass through a delivery system. This system is not metaphorical, it's energetic. It's built on alignment, coherence, and resonance. When any of those factors are missing, the signal breaks apart or gets lost in noise. So, when you're asking and nothing happens, it's not because you were ignored. It's because your message lacked the energetic infrastructure to arrive intact. And this is where most people go wrong. They assume effort equals clarity. They assume desire equals transmission. They assume words equal resonance. All of these are wrong. Transmission requires consistency between your conscious desire and your subconscious identity. Think of your desire as the content of an email. Your subconscious identity is the address it's being sent from, and where the reply is supposed to return to. Now imagine writing the perfect email, but your return address is fake. Or worse, your reply to address is pointing back to an outdated version of yourself you no longer want to live in. The result? The message gets marked undeliverable. This is the overlooked key. Your transmission isn't just what you say or want. It's what you are, energetically, emotionally, and neurologically. In the moment of asking, the most dangerous assumption is believing that your conscious thoughts are doing all the work. They're not. They're only 5% of the equation. The remaining 95%, your embodied emotion, your nervous system, your past references, your vibrational state, is doing the actual broadcasting. So yes, you are knocking, but the house you're knocking on doesn't recognize the sound. Here's a clearer picture. Desire without coherence equals a broken signal. Desire with emotional conflict equals a scrambled signal. Desire with unconscious doubt equals a reverse signal. Each of those situations means your message is either unreadable, misdirected, returned to sender, or tagged as energetic spam. And the most deceptive part? You'll still feel like you're doing it right, because you're trying so hard. But the effort you're putting in is often coming from frustration, from resistance, from the fear that if you don't force it, nothing will change. That energy is heavy. It's desperate, and desperation always disrupts clarity. So, what does it take for your signal to be heard? It takes emotional precision. It takes consistency between what you want and what you expect. It takes awareness of your subconscious narratives, especially the ones you haven't questioned in years. And it takes learning to send the signal from your future self instead of your current dissatisfaction. Let that settle in for a moment. You must send the signal as the version of you who already has it, not the one still waiting. That's the address the universe recognizes. That's where your reply will be sent. And here's the tragedy of so many people's efforts. They're unknowingly rejecting their own delivery. They ask from one identity and live as another. They speak desires rooted in expansion, but think thoughts soaked in scarcity. They send signals of yes please, and then broadcast, but it'll probably fail right afterward. Every contradiction becomes static, and every static-filled signal fades before it ever reaches its destination. So you knock, again and again, but the message never lands, and no one ever comes to the door. Now that you understand this breakdown, you have a new awareness. The universe isn't ignoring you. It's just waiting for the version of you that it can actually communicate with. And that version must be coherent, aligned, and energetically readable. Otherwise, you're just sending empty messages into a void. Next, we explore an even deeper blockage, one that exists not in your intention or your effort, but in the one place you rarely suspect, your mind. It's been filtering your desires, deleting your possibilities, and marking your dreams as junk mail. Let's unpack how your own subconscious spam filter could be shredding your signal before the universe ever gets the chance to reply. If your inbox is full of spam, important messages get missed. What if your mind is doing the same to your dreams? Here's how your subconscious is auto-deleting your destiny. Let's flip the perspective. You've learned that sending a clear signal requires more than effort. It requires resonance. But here's something even more disruptive to your progress. Sometimes the universe has replied. Sometimes the message was delivered, but your subconscious marked it as irrelevant, invalid, or untrustworthy, and quietly deleted it. This is the reality of subconscious spam, and it's probably happening more than you think. You may be wondering, why would my own mind delete what I've asked for? Because your subconscious isn't designed for expansion. It's designed for safety. It is engineered to keep you alive, not fulfilled. And that means it will prioritize familiarity over transformation, even when transformation is exactly what you're asking for. So when an opportunity shows up, when a nudge from the universe appears, when synchronicity tries to tap you on the shoulder, your subconscious may respond like this. This doesn't fit our pattern. This seems risky. This could be a trap. This isn't how it usually goes. And without your conscious permission, the moment gets discarded. Think about how spam filters work. They don't block only bad emails. They block unfamiliar emails. They flag anything that looks different than the usual flow. Your subconscious does the exact same thing with reality. If your nervous system is used to chaos, it will filter out peace. If your identity is rooted in struggle, it will mistrust ease. If your self-image is unworthy, it will reject love. And every time that misalignment shows up, your desired future gets tagged as foreign code, unsavable, unreadable, unsafe. That is subconscious spam. Let's go further. Have you ever received something you asked for, an opportunity, a person, a breakthrough, and felt inexplicably anxious, suspicious, guarded? That was your subconscious rejecting the delivery. It couldn't process the arrival because it had no frame for having it, only for wanting it. Desire is only one half of the equation. You must also develop the capacity to receive. And that means retraining your filters. This isn't about forcing your mind to accept new experiences. It's about training it to recognize them as safe. When you're used to being disappointed, fulfillment will feel like confusion. When you're conditioned to loss, abundance feels unstable. When your story is based on struggle, success looks like a threat. So the filter deletes what doesn't match the narrative, and the signal disappears without you ever knowing it arrived. Here's how to detect if your subconscious filter is active. You rationalize your way out of what you asked for. You feel resistance when ease is presented. You procrastinate on decisions that align with your vision. You feel overwhelmed by blessings and underwhelmed by challenges. You reinterpret positive signals through a skeptical lens. All of these are signs that your internal spam filter is intercepting your desires. And it goes deeper. Your subconscious doesn't just delete messages from the universe. It also alters the perception of your current reality to match the past. It's like applying an old filter on a new image. You never see the truth. You only see what's been permitted through the lens of your programming. This means that even if your life begins to shift, you may not register the shift. You may still act like you're stuck. You may still believe nothing's changed. This disconnect keeps you sending signals for something you already have access to, because you can't see that it's already arrived. Let's be very clear. You are not broken. Your brain is not sabotaging you on purpose, but it is loyal to your past. And that loyalty must be interrupted if you want to experience a different future. To change your reality, you must become aware of the moments your subconscious tries to drag you back into the old one. And when you feel the pull to ignore, reject, or downplay the thing you've asked for, pause. That moment of tension is your window. Choose to receive. Choose to allow. Choose to let it be safe to win. That's how the filter loosens. That's how the signal becomes receivable again. That's how reality begins to reflect the new code. Next, we bring awareness to a signal disruption far more deceptive than the spam filter. This one doesn't delete your message. It jams the frequency entirely. You're tuned in, or so you think, but the truth is, your channel might be broadcasting on static. Next, we expose the invisible force that blocks universal reception at its core, the distortion of your frequency. Now that we see what's blocking the inbox, let's tune into the real problem, your frequency. Think you're tuned in? Think again. You've been told to raise your vibration, to think positive, to match the energy of your desire. It sounds simple, but most people misunderstand what frequency actually is. Frequency isn't a feeling. It's not an emotion. It's not a surface-level state you try to access for 5 minutes during meditation. Frequency is your energetic signature, and it's being emitted 24/7 through every thought, emotion, expectation, and behavioral pattern. Right now, without saying a word, you are transmitting a signal to the universe. That signal is either clear, scrambled, or jammed. And the jamming, it's usually not from external interference. It's coming from within. Here's the illusion that most fall into. You think you're tuned into abundance because you talk about it. You think you're aligned with love because you crave it. You think you're ready for success because you visualized it. But craving is not alignment. Wanting is not resonance. Visualizing is not embodiment. Your frequency is not defined by the peaks of your day, but by your dominant baseline. It's what you default to when no one's watching. It's the emotion that lingers when your mind goes quiet. It's the reaction you have to unexpected discomfort. That's your real signal. And when it contradicts your conscious desires, that contradiction creates noise. That noise is jamming your signal. Let's break it down in quantum terms. Every outcome you desire already exists in the quantum field. It's not being created, it's being accessed. But access is only granted through frequency match. So if your signal is pulsing with doubt, fear, or frustration, you will remain blind to the outcomes that exist on higher frequencies. They are there. You just can't tune them in. It's no different than trying to listen to a radio station without setting the dial correctly. Static. Nothing but static. Let's identify the common frequency distortions that block transmission. 1. Desperation disguised as focus. You say you're committed, but your energy says, I need this or else. That's not resonance. That's scarcity. 2. Emotional bypassing. You try to stay positive by suppressing doubt, pain, or fear. This doesn't clean your signal. It buries the static deeper. 3. Forced rituals. You perform practices mechanically, thinking they'll force manifestation. But alignment can't be forced. It must be felt. 4. Comparison. When your gaze is fixed on others' progress, your frequency splinters. Envy, even subtle, distorts the field. 5. Impatience. When you obsess over timing, you tell the universe you don't trust the process. That distrust blocks reception. Every one of these creates a jammed signal. And every time that signal is jammed, your desires are held in limbo. Not because they aren't possible, but because you're not currently resonant with their frequency. Now let's go even deeper. Frequency is not just emotional tone. It's identity encoded into energy. Your identity creates your expectations. Your expectations create your emotional baseline. Your baseline sets your frequency. And your frequency dictates your access. If you've unconsciously identified as the struggler, the outsider, the almost but not quite, then even your most powerful intentions will be overridden by the static of your self-perception. And here's where most people get stuck. They try to tune their frequency from the outside in. They wait for external proof that it's working. They want the money, the opportunity, the partner, to feel like they're aligned. But it doesn't work that way. The frequency must come first. The evidence is a delayed reflection. You must live as if the shift has already occurred, not wait for it to occur before you shift. Let's bring this into focus with a question. Are you trying to send a signal? Or are you trying to force a result? Because trying to force a result leads to agitation, over-efforting, and second-guessing, each of which destabilizes your frequency. But when you learn to hold a signal as a state of being, without panic, without pressure, that's when transmission becomes stable. And only stable signals are heard. So how do you recalibrate? Start with awareness. Notice where your dominant energy is anchored, not where you want it to be, not where you pretend it is during your 5-minute morning ritual, but where it lives when things aren't going your way. That's your true broadcast. Then begin shifting your internal cues. Choose neutrality over urgency. Choose presence over projection. Choose embodiment over performance. Over time, This becomes your new baseline. And as your baseline shifts, so does your frequency. And as your frequency shifts, you stop jamming the signal and begin receiving again. Now that your awareness is tuned in, now that you recognize the difference between thinking you're aligned and actually holding the signal, there's one more illusion we must expose: the belief that the universe is silent. You've been told nothing is happening, but that silence, it's not silence at all. You just haven't learned how to hear the echo. Next, we uncover why it seems like the universe has ghosted you, and why that quiet might be your most powerful response yet. You've set intentions, visualized, journaled, and nothing. It's not the silence that's the problem. It's the echo you're not hearing. You've done the inner work. You've shown up consistently. You've asked, declared, affirmed. But still no reply. No synchronicity. No opening. Just stillness. And that stillness can feel deafening, because you start to believe it means you've failed, that you've been overlooked, that you're being tested, or worse, ignored. But the silence isn't rejection. It's response. You've just never been taught how to read it. The universe rarely replies with words. It replies with reflection. It replies with delay. It replies with frequency-matched feedback. But when you expect a voice, a sign, or an instant breakthrough, you'll miss the subtle ripple that signals movement. And in missing the ripple, you declare there's no wave. And in declaring no wave, you cancel the feedback loop. So the transmission stops, not because it was denied, but because it was interrupted. Let's explore what silence really is. In quantum terms, when you set an intention, the field reorganizes. Particles align. Possibilities shift. But there's a delay between broadcast and reflection. That delay feels like stillness, but it's gestation. And during gestation, the most critical choice must be made. Do you hold your frequency, or do you collapse it? Because the moment you collapse, through doubt, impatience, or over-efforting, you send a new signal, and the field responds to that. So what looks like silence was actually a waiting period, a sacred space in which your only job was to maintain coherence. Let's be brutally honest. Most people don't wait. They declare an intention in the morning, and by afternoon, they're already checking if it worked. They look for proof, and if none shows up, they change the signal. They go from clarity to confusion, from expectation to fear, from resonance to resistance, and then they call it failure. But the universe didn't fail. You just couldn't hold the signal long enough for the echo to return. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. You don't have to feel amazing all the time, but you do have to remain open. Silence is not absence. It's space. It's integration. It's the time it takes for the mirror to shift its image. If you expect the echo too fast, you'll mistake the void for abandonment. But the void is where reality rearranges. Now ask yourself this. When the response doesn't come quickly, what story do you tell? Do you collapse into your old identity? Do you start problem-solving from fear? Do you assume nothing's happening? Or do you treat that stillness as sacred? Because those moments, those quiet stretches of no evidence, are the threshold. And how you stand in the threshold determines everything. Let's also address the question that often arises in this space. But how do I know something's happening? The answer is not external. It's internal. You know because you refuse to default to the old pattern. You know because you choose to trust the upgrade before it completes. You know because you anchor into a new emotional truth, one that doesn't require validation to feel real. That's how you know. And when that becomes your new normal, the echo arrives. It may not arrive the way you expected, but it always arrives. Because the universe isn't ignoring you. It's mirroring your most consistent signal. If silence is all you're hearing, check the signal you've been holding in the absence of feedback. That's what's being reflected. Now that you understand the silence, now that you can recognize stillness as a sign of trust, not abandonment, we enter the most critical phase of this journey. You've been broadcasting. You've been aligning. You've been waiting. But here's the truth. If the root of your desire is lack, then everything you send, even with the best intentions, is coded with emptiness. Next, we expose the first fatal error of manifestation. asking from the wrong energy. Now we're entering the top 5 universe-repelling mistakes. First up, thinking you're manifesting when you're actually vibrating desperation. There's a difference between asking for something and being ready to receive it. You may think you're manifesting wealth. You may believe you're attracting love. You may swear you're aligned with success. But underneath the affirmations, underneath the rituals and positive talk, if your emotional body is vibrating lack, then that's what's actually being transmitted. The signal isn't your words. It's the energy you emit between the words. And when that energy is rooted in lack, even slightly, everything gets distorted. This is the first fatal error in manifestation. Let's clarify the problem. There's a fundamental misunderstanding about how desire works. We're taught to believe that wanting something is enough, that the strength of the want will pull it in, that the urgency, craving, the emotional intensity behind it will create attraction. But intensity doesn't equal alignment. In fact, the more emotionally charged your desire is with the feeling of not having, the more it broadcasts separation. Because every desire comes with a carrier wave. And if that carrier wave is coded with "I don't have it yet," that's the message the field receives. Not the request, but the emotional truth beneath the request. That truth gets amplified, mirrored, and reflected back into your experience. So when you say, "I want to be rich," but the emotion is frustration, struggle, urgency, or shame, the field responds with circumstances that keep you in struggle. Not because it's punishing you, but because it matches frequency. This is not about blame. This is about clarity. You're not broken for feeling lack. You're human. But when lack becomes your foundation, your signal becomes unstable. And the more effort you pour into manifestation from that unstable place, the more frustrated you become. Because the harder you try, the more clearly you broadcast the one truth you're trying to escape, that you don't yet have what you want. And that becomes your dominant vibration. Let's name this for what it is. Desire born from deficit. It's when the emotional root of your asking is based on the pain of not having it. It's when your dreams are coded in scarcity, not curiosity. Urgency, not confidence. Need, not readiness. And that difference changes everything. Because in the quantum field, why you ask matters just as much as what you ask for. So how do you shift? First, you must stop confusing desire with alignment. Desire is only the spark. Alignment is the signal. And alignment can only come from a state of wholeness, not from chasing completion. Here's the hard truth. The version of you that gets the thing isn't the one who needs it. It's the one who's already full without it. That fullness isn't a trick. It's not pretending you don't want it. It's not emotional numbness. It's energetic security. It's the embodiment of the belief that your worth is not dependent on the outcome. When that belief stabilizes, the field responds, because the signal is finally clear. So here's the shift. Don't desire wealth because you're scared of being broke. Desire it because you're ready to experience expansion. Don't chase love because you feel lonely. Call it in because you're overflowing with connection to self. Don't beg for peace because life is chaos. Create peace in your inner world first, and let the outer world align. This is the hidden calibration point. You stop chasing the thing from absence, and you start magnetizing it from overflow. Now let's go one layer deeper. When you want something from lack, your nervous system enters a sympathetic state. That means tension, scanning, bracing, controlling, fearing disappointment. This is an anti-receiving state. Your body is closed. Your field is braced. And even if the thing arrives, you won't feel safe enough to let it in. So not only does the field delay the delivery, you also delay your ability to experience it fully. This creates a loop. You desire from lack. You transmit stress. The field mirrors your stress. You get more lack. You desire harder. The stress intensifies. And on it goes. Until you stop. Until you recalibrate the origin point of the desire. Until you shift from lack to love. From scarcity to sufficiency. From absence to abundance in the now. Here's how you know you've made the shift. You still desire, but you're not in pain. You still visualize, but you're not anxious. You still intend, but you're not grasping. Your nervous system feels safe even without the thing. That's the key, because a safe nervous system emits coherence, and coherence is the only language the universe can read without distortion. Next, we take this even further. You've now seen how wanting from lack scrambles your signal. But there's a cousin to this problem, one that feels like motivation, looks like drive, and sounds like ambition. But it's just more scarcity in disguise. Let's examine the scarcity code, and how needing it badly becomes the exact signal that blocks it completely. You thought wanting it badly was motivation. But what if that's the exact energy repelling what you desire? Here's how it sabotages manifestation. You've been told, if you want it bad enough, it will happen. If you try harder, push more, sacrifice longer, it'll come through. That desire must come with fire, with obsession, with all-consuming intensity. And while that sounds noble, it's coated with fear, because beneath the obsession is a subtle belief. If I don't control every variable, it won't work out. That's not trust. That's not alignment. That's scarcity. And that scarcity becomes your frequency. Let's get precise. Wanting it badly seems powerful. It feels like passion. It sounds like certainty. But in quantum mechanics, it's not the volume of desire that matters. It's the clarity of your field. And needing something too badly creates distortion. It projects lack. It projects fear of failure. It signals desperation. And desperation vibrates at a frequency that repels rather than attracts. Picture a magnet. A healthy magnet pulls and what matches it. But an overheated magnet loses its field integrity. It can't hold its charge. It scrambles instead of attracts. That's what happens when your desire becomes attachment. When you can't separate your identity from the outcome. When you can't feel safe unless it happens. When you hinge your worth on the manifestation, the energy overheats, the frequency collapses, the field jams, and nothing comes through. Now consider this. The strongest signal is one that already feels whole. It's the signal of someone who doesn't need the thing to feel fulfilled. Someone who welcomes the outcome but doesn't use it to define their safety. Someone who can hold desire without emotional collapse. That person is magnetic, not because they chase harder, but because their frequency is coherent. They're not vibrating lack. They're vibrating sufficiency. They don't hope for the thing. They expect it, but they don't emotionally depend on it. And that's the frequency the universe rushes to meet. Let's expose the common behaviors hiding inside the scarcity code. Checking constantly for signs. Needing immediate feedback. Feeling anxious when nothing happens quickly. Thinking about the desire all day out of worry. Comparing your timeline to others. Doubting your worth the moment results delay. Each one of these isn't harmless. They're signal disruptors. They reinforce to the field. I don't trust this. I don't believe this. I'm not okay unless it arrives now. Which tells the field, delay it. It's not safe yet. So here's the paradox. The more you need it to come, the more you push it away. The tighter your grip, the slower it moves. The louder your panic, the more static you emit. The more you obsess, the more incoherent the signal becomes. And all of this happens in micro moments. When you rehearse worst-case scenarios just in case. When you mentally bargain with the universe. When you prepare for disappointment to soften the blow. These actions feel subtle, but they scream scarcity in the quantum field. The solution? Detach the outcome from your identity. Want the thing? Yes. Move toward it? Yes. Align with it? Absolutely. But stop using it to validate who you are. When your value is constant, the need dissolves. And when the need dissolves, the space opens. And when the space opens, the thing finally arrives. Not because you pushed harder, but because your field finally became clear. Now that you understand the trap of needing, let's address the next silent distortion. You've asked, you've clarified, you've done the work to stabilize your energy. But what if the message is still collapsing before delivery? Next, we expose the invisible fracture hiding in your signal. Doubt. Let's bring it to light and dismantle its power. You fixed your desire, but do you secretly doubt it'll arrive? Let's expose the invisible cracks created by uncertainty. You've done the work. You've defined the outcome. You've practiced stillness. You've visualized success. But then, like an invisible echo, a whisper shows up inside your mind. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm just deluding myself? What if I'm wrong to believe this is possible? That whisper doesn't scream. It doesn't panic. It slips in softly, rationally, quietly, and in that quiet moment of mental questioning, the signal collapses. This is the second fatal error, doubting the delivery. To understand how powerful this is, we must go deeper into how intention interacts with the quantum field. The field doesn't operate on verbal cues. It's not decoding your logical plans. It's not responding to your vision board, your planner, or your best efforts at hope. It reads one thing, your dominant certainty. So even if you align for hours each morning, if your underlying baseline contains doubt, then doubt becomes the true broadcast, and that broadcast overrides everything else. Here's what makes doubt so dangerous. It often wears the mask of being realistic. It pretends to be protective. It says, don't get your hopes up. It says, be practical. It says, prepare for the worst. But beneath all that logic is a code that says, I don't trust this. I don't believe I'm supported. I'm afraid it won't happen. And that code instructs the universe to pause delivery. So how does doubt show up? You second-guess the nudge you just received. You keep checking whether it's working. You mentally rehearse being let down. You look at your past for evidence and come up empty. You get excited for 2 minutes, then start hedging your expectations. These micro-patterns fracture the signal, even if your desire is strong, even if your actions are aligned. If your emotional field contains mistrust, the field mirrors that mistrust. And the result? Delay, stagnation, silence. Let's take this into the body. Doubt isn't just mental, it's visceral. You can feel it in your stomach, your chest, your breath. That tightening, that hesitation, that half smile when someone asks, do you think it'll really happen? That's the somatic language of doubt, and it is interpreted instantly by the quantum field as indecision. The field doesn't deliver to unstable coordinates. It waits until the energy is stable, coherent, and unwavering. That's not punishment. That's precision. Now let's ask a confronting question. Do you actually believe what you say you believe? Or are you trying to believe it? Because there's a difference. Trying to believe means you're still managing doubt. Actual belief feels calm, certain, unshaken by external evidence, or the lack of it. If your current reality looks the opposite of your desire, and that rattles your trust, then your trust wasn't anchored. It was conditional. And conditional belief isn't belief. It's manipulation. It's bargaining. It's fragile. So how do you remove doubt? Not by resisting it. Not by pretending it doesn't exist. But by pulling it into the light. Ask it questions. Disarm it with observation. Don't react to it. Study it. Where did this doubt originate? Whose voice is it echoing? What story is it trying to protect you from repeating? Often, doubt isn't even yours. It's inherited. It's absorbed. It's rehearsed. But it's not fixed. It's not truth. It's not permanent. Once you identify doubt as just a thought, not a law, you weaken its grip. And in that weakening, your frequency starts to stabilize again. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes, doubt doesn't show up as no. It shows up as yes, but, and in that tiny but, a different kind of distortion begins. One far more deceptive than outright disbelief. It's the illusion of hope, coded with hidden fear. Let's examine the next major misfire. Mixed signals, when your desire and your doubt are being broadcast at the same time. Hope sounds positive, but what if it's laced with subconscious fear? Now that you see doubt clearly, it's time to decode your hopeful sabotage. You say you believe. You say you trust. You say you're hopeful. And you mean it. But there's something hiding underneath that hope. A quiet tension. A low hum of uncertainty. A flicker of fear behind the smile. This is the danger of mixed signals, when your outer expression says yes, but your inner vibration says maybe, probably not. The result? The universe reads the dominant vibration, not the words. Let's get extremely specific here. Hope is often thought of as a high frequency. It feels good. It seems positive. It gives the illusion of alignment. But when hope is the only thing holding your desire together, that hope is often a mask, because behind that mask is a very different truth. I'm scared it won't happen. I need to believe something good is coming because I don't feel good now. I'm trying to stay hopeful because I'm terrified of being disappointed. This is not optimism. It's emotional survival. It's like saying, I'm sure it'll work out, while gripping tightly to the fear that it won't. The words say yes. The vibration says no. The signal is scrambled. This is why so many people feel confused when nothing shifts. They're doing the work. They're thinking positively. They're meditating, journaling, visualizing. But if underneath all that is a foundation of nervous, unstable hope, then the transmission isn't coherent. It's fragmented. And fragmented signals don't create manifestation. They create delay. Here's what to watch for. Your affirmations feel forced. You're constantly scanning for evidence that it's working. You say, I believe, but you feel anxiety in your chest. You swing between enthusiasm and fear throughout the day. You feel emotionally exhausted from trying to stay in the zone. These aren't signs of alignment. They're signs of internal contradiction, and contradiction always disrupts frequency. Here's the shift. Hope is fine if it's layered on top of certainty, if it's growing from a stable foundation, if it's supported by inner calm and trust. But hope alone, especially when it's used to paper over fear, becomes just another version of resistance. True belief feels relaxed. It's not anxious. It's not desperate. It doesn't keep asking, where is it? It knows, and knowing doesn't need constant reinforcement. So how do you move from mixed signals to a clear broadcast? Start by removing the emotional static. Instead of saying, I believe it's coming, ask, would I feel safe even if it took longer than I expected? Do I believe I'm worthy, even without the outcome? Can I trust life, even in uncertainty? If your answer is no, then hope is compensating for a trust deficiency. And that means your next step is not louder affirmations, but quieter honesty. Start being radically clear with yourself. Where am I pretending to believe, but actually bracing for disappointment? Where am I rehearsing positivity to cover fear? Where am I using hope as a buffer for pain? Answering these opens the frequency, because the field doesn't need perfect positivity. It needs truthful alignment. You can feel unsure and still transmit certainty, because certainty is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear lead the signal. It's the decision to trust, not because it's easy, but because the alternative has never worked. That's the anchor. That's the signal the universe recognizes instantly. And that's when delays begin to dissolve. You've now cleared the fog of doubt. You've exposed the danger of hopeful sabotage. And your signal is stronger than it was before. But now comes the great distortion hiding beneath the surface of every action, every plan, every well-intended move. It's not a frequency problem. It's not a thought pattern. It's not even about trust. It's the obsession with controlling how and when your dream arrives. And this, it creates more resistance than almost anything else. Next, we reveal the fatal grip of control and why it always triggers universal silence. You micromanage the how, stress over the when, and panic over the if. Now, let's unpack why the universe ghosts control freaks. You've decided what you want. You've clarified the goal. You've visualized it down to the last detail. You've even mapped out your action steps. And now you're watching, calculating, overthinking, adjusting, correcting, and reacting to every little fluctuation. You're trying to stay on top of it. You're trying to keep things on track. You're trying to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. Sounds productive. Sounds responsible. Sounds like a go-getter attitude. But in the energetic realm, it's one of the fastest ways to shut down flow completely, because what you call managing the process, the universe reads as mistrust, and that mistrust becomes a signal that blocks the very outcome you're obsessing over. Let's call it what it is: obsessive control, the need to dictate the timing, The pathway, the players, the speed, the format, the validation, and the steps it takes to arrive at your outcome. At its core, control is fear disguised as strategy. You fear the outcome won't come. You fear being disappointed. You fear being forgotten. You fear being hurt again. So you decide the only way to feel safe is to control every part of the process. But that fear becomes your frequency, and fear signals chaos, not coherence. Let's break this down. Manifestation is not linear. It doesn't obey timelines. It doesn't follow human logic. It's a nonlinear rearrangement of reality based on your emotional, energetic, and vibrational consistency. So when you try to force it into a rigid framework, based on your own limited ideas of how things should go, you shrink the possibilities available to you, and you replace flow with force. And the field doesn't respond to force. It mirrors energy. If your energy is grasping, overreaching, and frantic, you get delays. Because delays are how the field protects your desires from entering the wrong version of you, the version that still thinks it needs to force to succeed. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Control is often rooted in trauma. When you grew up in chaos or unpredictability, you learned to control to survive. Control made you feel safe. It helped you avoid punishment. It helped you manage pain. It helped you create order in disorder. But what once kept you safe is now blocking your expansion. Because control isn't required for success. Safety is. And when your nervous system only feels safe when it's in control, you shut down the very openness required for quantum flow. Let's examine the behaviors of obsessive control. Constantly checking for signs. Monitoring metrics and progress daily. Overplanning every outcome. Micromanaging timing. Trying to predict conversations, reactions, or decisions. Needing immediate feedback to feel okay. Rehearsing failure to prepare emotionally. Fixating on what others are doing instead of allowing your own path to unfold. These seem harmless, but each one sends the same message. I don't trust this will happen unless I manage it personally. And the universe reads that loud and clear. So here's the shift. You can't force a timeline. You can't reverse engineer divine orchestration. You can't rush what's still aligning behind the scenes. You can only hold the vibration. You can only anchor your energy. You can only choose to trust what you've already set in motion. Trying to force the how tells the universe, I believe this only works if it happens in the way I decided. That belief limits the options, and limitation creates friction, and friction disrupts manifestation. Let's go deeper. Control creates resistance in your body. When you're trying to control everything, your nervous system is in a constant state of tension. Your jaw is tight. Your stomach contracts. Your chest holds your breath. Your mind races with what-ifs. This physical response is not neutral. It tells your subconscious that the future is unsafe. And when the subconscious believes the future is unsafe, it automatically defers or rejects it. Now you're not just slowing down the process. You're telling your entire system, don't let this in yet. And you may not even realize it. So what does surrender look like? It's not passivity. It's not laziness. It's not detachment from ambition. Surrender is releasing the path, not the outcome. It's saying, this or something even better. It's letting go of how it arrives and focusing only on who you must become to receive it. That's the energy the universe listens to. That's the energy that expands options. That's the energy that feels like safety in motion, not chaos in disguise. Let's take this one step further. When you finally stop controlling, something powerful happens. You stop delaying, because control delays are real. Every time you micromanage the outcome, you slow it down. Every time you interfere with the process, you scramble the alignment. It's not punishment, it's protection. The field is waiting for your nervous system to say, I trust what I've already set in motion. Until it hears that, delay continues. Now that you've spotted the grip of control, it's time to confront the great paradox behind it. You've been holding tighter, thinking it would bring you closer. But the truth is, the tighter your grip, the further your dreams drift. Let's explore why. Now that you've met your inner control freak, what happens when control becomes the very wall keeping your dreams out? Let's imagine you're holding sand in your hand. If your palm is open, the sand rests. If you grip too tightly, the sand slips through your fingers. This is the control paradox. The more you squeeze for certainty, the more instability you create. You're not holding it. You're crushing it. You're not securing it. You're choking the life from it. This is the exact relationship most people have with their desires. They try to lock down every detail, and in doing so, they block the energy that needs to flow through them. This paradox shows up in 1,000 subtle ways. You double down when things slow down. You panic when results pause. You take action not from alignment, but from fear of inaction. You overwork, overanalyze, and overcommit. You try to brute force the next step because you don't feel the next step arriving fast enough. And you call it hustle. You call it discipline. You call it determination. But the field sees tension. It sees dissonance. It sees a lack of surrender. And so the flow halts. Not because you're not worthy, but because you're not ready to receive without trying to own every aspect of the arrival. Let's break this into energetic terms. When you're gripping a desire too tightly, your energy becomes contracted, and contracted energy is resistant to receiving. It's in a defensive state. It's guarded. It's suspicious. It's rigid. But manifestation happens in relaxed energy, in openness, in availability, in willingness to be surprised. So the more you push, the more you unconsciously communicate. I don't trust I'm supported. I don't believe ease is real. I need to fight this into existence. And that belief becomes the new baseline. And that baseline reshapes your frequency. And that frequency delays the very thing you're trying to pull in. Now let's explore why you pushed so hard in the first place. You were taught that effort equals results. That more energy means more progress. That results must be earned through struggle and strategy. But manifestation doesn't operate on effort quantity. It operates on frequency quality. That means a single moment of calm certainty can collapse timelines faster than weeks of anxious action. But you only experience that when you stop pushing. So what's the new model? Let, don't force. Move, don't shove. Act, don't panic. Lead, don't chase. You're not being asked to do less. You're being asked to do it from a different state. Aligned movement will always outperform frantic motion. Because aligned movement is effortless. It's timed. It's precise. It doesn't come from, I need this to happen now. It comes from, I know it's already done. That's the shift. Let's also address what happens after you release control. The illusion is that nothing is happening. You've stopped forcing, but the result hasn't landed yet. So your mind panics. Did I lose momentum? Should I do something else? Is it slipping away? No, it's anchoring in. But you must let the process breathe. Control kills oxygen. Trust allows expansion. The more you resist your impulse to jump back in, the faster alignment returns. The field is always rearranging, but it can't deliver to a constantly shifting target. And control, it keeps moving the target. Now here's the core of the paradox. You think control gives you power, but real power is the ability to remain open without controlling the outcome. That's mastery. Anyone can hold vision when things are going perfectly, but only those who can hold vibration without evidence. Only those who can release timing without fear. Only those who can trust themselves without pushing. They're the ones who manifest consistently, because their energy says, I don't need to grip. I just need to be the match. So what happens when you finally let go? Not give up. Let go. You release attachment to timing. You stop needing it to look a certain way. You quit micromanaging delivery. And suddenly, space opens. The field gets clear. The feedback returns. The delivery accelerates. Because now it knows. You're finally ready to receive without grasping. You've released control. You've stopped jamming the field with force. And your signal is stronger than ever. But there's one more energy distortion hiding deep in the signal. One that doesn't scramble the delivery, but rewinds your entire field back into your past. It's the attachment to an outdated identity, and it may be looping your reality without you even knowing it. Next, we unmask the energetic fingerprint of your old self and why it's keeping the universe stuck on repeat. You're trying to manifest a new life while dragging around the baggage of the old you. Let's unmask the identity code that keeps looping the same results. You want change. You say you're ready. You've envisioned the future. You've spoken the words. You've made the list. But here's the hidden contradiction, keeping it all stuck. You're asking for a new outcome, while operating from the same old identity. And that's the fourth fatal error. Because manifestation isn't just about receiving something new. It's about becoming someone new. And if the frequency of your identity doesn't shift, the frequency of your reality can't shift either. Let's start with the foundational truth. The universe doesn't give you what you ask for. It reflects what you consistently are, not who you perform as, not who you try to be when people are watching, but who you are when you're unguarded, when you're alone, when your subconscious takes the wheel. That identity creates a set point, and that set point becomes your reality blueprint. So if you're still living as the version of yourself that expects struggle, or distrusts love, or braces for disappointment, then that's the field you're broadcasting, even if your desires say otherwise. Here's how this misfire plays out. You want wealth, but you still identify as someone who gets by. You want deep love, but you still identify as someone who's hard to love. You want freedom, but you still see yourself as someone who must overwork to deserve it. Each of those identity codes sends a stronger signal than your intentions, because identity is not just belief, it's embodiment. It's what your subconscious sees when it looks in the mirror, and the subconscious always wins the frequency war. This is where most manifestation work stops short. It focuses on ing, on affirmations, on thought patterns. But until the underlying identity structure changes, the outer world has no permission to evolve. That's not mindset. It's neurology. It's pattern reinforcement. It's quantum law. And it explains why you keep attracting versions of the same story with different costumes, because the identity running the signal never changed. Let's talk about looping. When you live in an old identity, you create predictable loops. You attract similar types of people into your life. You create recurring financial patterns. You keep getting almost there, but never fully break through. You sabotage progress the moment it starts feeling unfamiliar. This isn't bad luck. It's energetic consistency. Your subconscious is addicted to the familiar, even if that familiar is painful. Because to the subconscious, predictable pain feels safer than unpredictable peace. And that addiction is what keeps your signal stuck in a holding pattern. Now let's get practical. How do you know if you're still living from the old identity? You speak in terms of, I've always been the kind of person who default to old labels. Anxious, unlucky, introverted, broken, too intense. Downplay your wins to stay relatable. Avoid certain actions because that's not really me. Surround yourself with people who reinforce outdated versions of you. Feel secretly guilty about leveling up. Fear becoming too different from who you've always been. Each of these behaviors reinforces the old self. Each one loops the same reality over and over again. Here's the shift. If you want a new result, you must become the version of you who already lives in that result. You don't wait for evidence to act like that version. You decide it now. You embody it now. You speak, think, move, dress, act, and feel from that identity before the world reflects it back. And once you do, the world starts to catch up, not because you forced it, but because you stopped contradicting it. Now comes the resistance. The ego fights this process. It says, but this is who I've always been. It says, what if I lose people? It says, what if I change and still fail? But here's the truth. The real failure is staying the same and expecting a new outcome. Change isn't a risk. Staying stuck is. You are not betraying yourself by becoming a new version of you. You're betraying your evolution by clinging to an expired one. Let's also call out the subconscious sabotage that happens when the new identity begins to form. You attract a new opportunity, then suddenly don't feel ready. You feel more visible and instantly want to shrink back. You feel momentum, then procrastinate out of nowhere. You start thinking about all the people who won't understand the new you. These are not signs to stop. They're signs the shift is working, and that the old identity is starting to panic. Let it. That panic is temporary. Your expansion is permanent. Now that you've seen how identity silently shapes your frequency, it's time to track the shadow of your past self and understand how it continues to operate your life even when you think you've moved on. Because shedding an identity isn't a one-time decision, it's a constant disentangling. Next, we reveal how your past self may still be holding the steering wheel and what to do when your transformation keeps triggering regression. You've identified your old self. Now let's see how every thought and action still feeds that ghost. You've taken the leap. You've decided to grow. You've committed to becoming someone new. But just when it starts to feel real, you notice something strange. A part of you starts to pull back. You feel resistance where there was clarity. You slip into old habits, even though you know better. You catch yourself speaking in the voice of someone you thought you'd outgrown. That's not failure. That's the ghost of your past self. And if you don't become conscious of that ghost, it will keep looping the same patterns, quietly, persistently, invisibly. Here's what no one tells you. The old version of you doesn't die without a fight. It fights through doubt, through regression, through sabotage, through nostalgia for your limitations, through identity cravings that feel almost comfortable, because that version of you still believes it's needed, still believes it's protecting you, still believes it has a role in keeping you safe. And that's why you keep reinforcing it, not consciously, but energetically. Let's bring this into focus. You've said you're done with fear-based decisions, but you still overthink every move. You've said you're no longer tied to struggle, but you still equate hard work with worthiness. You've said you're ready to receive, but you still reject ease. Each of these is a subtle agreement with the past version of yourself, a micro-contract, a hidden loyalty, a repetition that keeps the ghost alive. You don't outgrow your past self by ignoring it. You outgrow it by exposing its patterns, then choosing differently. And that choice, it's not mental, it's energetic. It shows up in how you respond to triggers. It shows up in how you hold your frequency when you're alone. It shows up in how you treat yourself when no one is watching. That's where the real change happens. That's where the ghost loses its grip. Let's talk about emotional addiction. Your past self has emotional habits. Anxiety, guilt, unworthiness, panic, disappointment. These aren't just emotions. They're patterns. They're neurochemical loops. And they're familiar. So even when you want change, your body might crave the old emotion like a drug. This is why you sometimes feel uncomfortable in peace. Why success makes you nervous. Why love feels overwhelming. Not because it's wrong, because it's unfamiliar. And the ghost wants to return to what it knows. Here's how the ghost influences you. You replay old arguments in your mind. You act out future scenarios that mimic past betrayals. You expect things to go wrong without realizing it. You flinch emotionally when things start going right. You recreate struggle to feel normal again. These aren't random behaviors. They're energetic echoes of who you used to be. And they will keep showing up until you stop feeding them. How do you stop feeding the ghost? By breaking the auto-response. You feel the old emotion. You pause. You breathe. You acknowledge the story without reinforcing it. You say, "That's not me anymore. I release this version with gratitude, but I'm not available for this pattern." And then, you act differently. You embody the new response, even if it feels foreign, even if it feels fake at first, because the body learns by repetition, and identity solidifies through behavior. You are not obligated to keep being the person you were yesterday. Your growth doesn't invalidate who you've been. It upgrades the code. It honors the journey by choosing something new, not because the old was wrong, but because you've outgrown its purpose. And when you stop defending the ghost, it stops showing up. You've now uncovered the silent signal that loops reality, outdated identity, But there's one more misfire we must bring to light: the vagueness that dilutes your desires before they ever reach the field. Next, we decode the consequences of unclear requests and why not knowing what you actually want is a cosmic dead end. You're asking the universe for what exactly? Let's uncover the hidden vagueness behind your dreams and why that's a cosmic dead end. You keep asking. You keep intending. You keep saying you're ready. But here's the question no one's forcing you to answer. What exactly are you asking for? Not in theory. Not emotionally. Not generically. What specifically, concretely, energetically are you requesting from a field? If your answer is vague, blurred, fluctuating, or scattered, then you're not actually manifesting. You're broadcasting noise. And the universe doesn't decode noise. It mirrors clarity. Let's make something clear. The universe is not confused. You are. And when you bring that confusion into your manifestations, the field mirrors that back to you, not out of cruelty, but out of precision. It only reflects the blueprint it's given. And if the blueprint is sketchy, undefined, or contradictory, the manifestation will mirror that. Unstable, incomplete, random, unfulfilling. This is the fifth fatal error, not actually knowing what you want. You might think you know, but most people don't. They know what they're running from, not what they're running toward. They know what they hate, not what they desire. They know what hurts, but they've never architected what heals. And without that level of emotional and energetic clarity, the signal is scrambled from start. Let's examine what this looks like. You say, I want success. What does that mean? Is it financial, emotional, creative? And by when? On what terms? I want love. Do you mean partnership? Friendship? Is it long-term? Do you want it now? Or do you want to become ready for it? I want freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom to do what? What would freedom look like if it showed up today? Most people can't answer these questions, and so they speak in emotional generalities. But emotions aren't enough. You must combine emotional truth with energetic specificity. Why? Because the field is infinite. And in an infinite field, your signal must be finite, focused, aligned, locked in. If you send out a fog, you get back a blur. If you broadcast 12 overlapping desires, you split your power. If you oscillate between conflicting outcomes, the field doesn't punish you. It pauses until you choose. It's not indecision that delays your manifestation. It's unclarity. Clarity isn't pressure. It's structure. And structure doesn't limit flow. It gives flow something to follow. Now let's look at why people stay vague. Because clarity isn't just a mental effort, it's a vulnerable act. To say, I want this exact thing is scary. Why? Because if it doesn't arrive, you can't hide behind the fog anymore. You can't retreat into, maybe I wasn't specific enough. You can't tell yourself, well, it could have been anything. You now have a measurable desire, a clear request, a precise expectation, and that feels risky. So you protect yourself from disappointment by staying blurry. But in doing that, you also protect yourself from fulfillment. Here's how you know you're operating in energetic vagueness. You change your goals every few days. You focus on the end emotion, but not the form. You avoid declaring exact outcomes in case it's not the right thing. You fear asking for specifics because you don't want to limit the universe. You use spiritual language to avoid commitment. Whatever is meant for me will come. You leave too much room for interpretation out of fear of being too demanding. These are not wise strategies. They're masked indecision. And indecision is a broadcast of contradiction. The universe doesn't punish it. It just doesn't mirror it. Now let's talk about emotional integrity. Clarity isn't just about being precise in words. It's about being honest with what you actually want, even if it contradicts what you think you're supposed to want. Some people say they want peace, but deep down they crave excitement. Some say they want money, but they really crave recognition. Some say they want love, but they actually want validation. This isn't wrong. It just needs to be owned. Because if you don't ask for what you actually want, you can only receive what your mask asked for. And that creates empty manifestations, things that look right on paper, but feel off once they arrive. So how do you correct this? You get radically honest. Not just mentally, energetically. You stop asking from your wounds. You stop requesting from avoidance. You stop crafting vague, safe desires that protect your ego but confuse your field. And you speak a clear truth. This is what I want. I am available for this. I trust myself with it. That alignment, it's rare, but it's magnetic. Because once you speak the desire clearly, without shame, without apology, you activate direction. And now the field can respond with accuracy. You've now uncovered the fifth major misfire, asking from fog. But vagueness doesn't just live in your thoughts. It leaks into your vision, your language, and your vibration. And that creates static. Next, we break down how blurry goals scramble your quantum code, and what happens when your desire is too unclear to reach its destination. Now that you realize vagueness is deadly, let's learn how to write your desire in a way the universe can't ignore. Picture a radio tower. You want it to receive a signal, but the antenna is bent. The dial is halfway between two stations. The volume keeps shifting up and down. That's what it looks like when you try to manifest from a blurry vision. There's a signal being sent, yes, but it's fragmented. It's inconsistent. It's filled with noise. And the universe, trying to lock onto your frequency, can't find a stable channel. This is cosmic static, and it cancels more manifestations than doubt, fear, or timing ever will. Let's clarify what blurry vision really means. It's when your desires lack form, no defined structure or outcome. Feeling, unclear emotional signature tied to the goal. Focus, scattered attention split across multiple wants. Finality, no firm decision that this is your path. When any of these are missing, the signal you emit becomes incomplete. And incomplete signals don't land. They hover. They drift. They expire. The field doesn't guess. It doesn't fill in the blanks for you. It's not interpreting your vibes. It's matching your instructions. And your instructions are only as strong as your clarity. So when you say, I want more money, you haven't defined how much, when, why, and what you're prepared to receive. You haven't sent a signal. You've made a wish. And the field doesn't deliver on wishes. It delivers on instructions. Now here's what makes blurry vision dangerous. It gives you the illusion of being intentional, without requiring the vulnerability of commitment. You feel like you're doing something. You feel like you're focusing. You feel like you're in alignment. But nothing's happening, because you haven't sent the full signal. You've sent a half code, a partial blueprint, a sentence with missing words. And that sentence, it never becomes a result. Here's how this shows up in real life. You set a goal, but keep changing the timeline. You visualize a future, but switch the image every few days. You write affirmations, but keep rewriting them out of boredom or doubt. You pursue multiple conflicting outcomes at once. You wait for a sign instead of declaring direction. Each of these behaviors confuses the field, because the field doesn't respond to motion. It responds to coherence, and coherence is impossible when your focus is splintered. Let's go deeper. The root cause of blurry vision is often emotional avoidance. You blur your vision because clear desires carry emotional weight. They force decisions. They require belief. They remove the excuse of uncertainty. Once you say what you want, you risk not getting it. And that risk feels more painful than ambiguity. So you stay vague. But vagueness is not safety. It's self-sabotage. Now let's talk about vibrational collapse. Every time you get excited about something unclear, your energy rises. But because there's no anchor, no clarity, it has nowhere to go. So it drops again. This up-down frequency creates turbulence in your field. And turbulence breaks momentum. You keep restarting, revisualizing, rewriting the dream, rebuilding the desire from scratch every week. This is an ambition. It's indecision. And indecision keeps you on the treadmill of effort with no arrival. Here's how you fix it. Write your desire like a contract. Specific, aligned, anchored. State what you want. State why you want it. State how it will feel to have it. State what you're willing to release to allow it. State when you're available to receive it. And then, Hold that contract in your field without changing it. Let the field respond. You're not being rigid. You're being legible. And if the form changes along the way, that's fine. But let the form change after the frequency is stable. Not because your emotions were unstable. Because when you keep shifting the shape of your dream due to fear, boredom, or impatience, you're not evolving. You're evading. And the field responds accordingly. You've now seen what blurry desire creates. A constant delay loop. But even worse, when you're not clear on what you want, your subconscious fills in the blanks with old patterns. It reinserts past pain, old beliefs, unhealed expectations, and soon, your desire morphs into a Frankenstein version of everything you were trying to leave behind. Not because you failed, but because you left the instructions incomplete. You now know how to stabilize clarity. You now know how to close the signal gap. But clarity is not enough unless it's authentic. And sometimes, even when you're clear, your energy is fake. It's performance. It's mimicry. It's spiritual aesthetic with no alignment underneath. Next, we uncover the hidden sixth error, performing spirituality, and how pretending to be aligned sends the universe a signal of fraud. Bonus error, doing all the right spiritual things for the wrong reasons. Let's explore how inauthenticity scrambles the signal. You meditate. You journal. You sage your space. You repeat affirmations. You talk about energy, alignment, intuition, and flow. You're doing it all. You've checked every box in the modern spiritual handbook. But still, nothing. No shift. No change. No breakthroughs. You begin to wonder, am I doing it wrong? No, you're doing it for the wrong reason. This is the hidden sixth error, performing spirituality. It's when your actions look aligned, but your frequency says otherwise. And in the quantum field, performance is noise. Only coherence gets heard. Let's clarify something right now. This isn't about calling out rituals, practices, or routines. Those can be powerful, anchoring, helpful. But when those tools become a mask, a way to convince yourself or others that you're aligned, your signal becomes inauthentic. Because spiritual performance is an energy work. It's ego maintenance. And the field doesn't respond to what you show off. It responds to what you actually emit. Let's name the most common forms of performance. Doing morning routines religiously, but feeling anxious all day. Posting aligned content online while secretly feeling lost. Speaking in spiritual language, but avoiding your real emotions. Meditating not to connect, but to get something. Saying, I'm manifesting as a coping mechanism for fear. Wearing crystals and talking about vibration while panicking over money. Repeating affirmations without believing a single word. None of these are wrong on the surface. But when the motivation is inauthentic, when it's about image over energy, it sends a scrambled signal. And scrambled signals produce delayed, distorted, or empty results. This is what happens when spirituality becomes an identity costume instead of an internal truth. You may fool others. You may even fool yourself. But the universe isn't fooled. It mirrors your energetic core, not your curated vibe. And when that core is filled with performance, the reflection is silence. Here's why this mistake is so subtle. It feels like you're doing the work. It feels like discipline. It feels like effort. It feels like showing up. But the energy behind the effort is off. Because deep down, you're not connecting with Source. You're trying to control it. You're not building trust. You're bargaining. You're not surrendering. You're strategizing. And that turns something sacred into another form of manipulation. And the universe doesn't respond to manipulation. It waits for authenticity. Now let's explore the emotional root of this behavior. Why perform at all? Because part of you believes that you're not enough without the costume. That if you stopped doing the rituals, if you dropped the affirmations, if you took off the spiritual persona, you'd lose your connection. You'd lose your power. You'd be exposed as a fraud. That fear is the real problem. It means your alignment is conditional. It means your safety is performative. It means your signal is artificial. And artificial energy is easily distorted by the field. So what's the fix? Strip it all down. Stop doing anything for a week that feels like performance. No rituals, no affirmations, no spiritual practices unless they feel raw, connected, and real. Then, slowly reintroduce the practices that ground you, not the ones that impress others. Ask yourself, am I doing this to connect or to control? Do I feel closer to myself when I do this? Would I do this if no one ever saw me doing it? Does this practice quiet my spirit or just my fear? Those questions are filters. They clean your energy. They tune your signal. Because spiritual alignment isn't about how many practices you stack. It's about how deeply you trust the few that matter. Let's also talk about comparison. Performative spirituality often arises from watching others. You see someone else living in flow, doing ceremonies, living their best aligned life, and you think, I need to do what they're doing. And so you copy the behavior, but not the energy behind it. And that copy loses power the moment it leaves authenticity, because someone else's truth can't power your field. It must come from your alignment, and alignment can't be mimicked. It must be chosen. You now know the truth behind this hidden misfire, and now that the mask is off, it's time to confront an even more deceptive distortion. It's not performance. It's internal sabotage. You've written your intention. You've chosen your outcome. But your subconscious is editing the signal before it ever leaves the body. Let's step into the control room and catch the editor at work. You set an intention, but your subconscious quietly changes the... Let's peek inside the editing room. You set a powerful intention. You speak it clearly. You feel the resonance. You release it into the field. And then, something strange happens. Without realizing it, your mind starts rewriting the... It adds caveats. It softens the language. It doubts the delivery. It questions your readiness. It adds protective clauses, just in case. And by the time the signal finishes transmitting, it's not your original intention anymore. It's been edited. And this is the subconscious at work, rewriting your command before it ever reaches the field. Let's make something clear. You don't manifest from the intention you set. You manifest from the version of that intention your subconscious allows to leave the body. And if your subconscious is still coded with fear, guilt, unworthiness, or mistrust, your signal will be rewritten. Because the subconscious doesn't obey your wishes. It obeys your programming. Let's get practical. Here's how the editing shows up. You say, I'm ready to receive. But your mind whispers, as long as it doesn't change too much. You say, I deserve abundance, but your nervous system remembers your debt and corrects the frequency to, I hope I get by. You visualize your dream job, but you unconsciously add scenes of it going wrong, because your body expects instability. You affirm love, but your subconscious reminds you how the last one ended, and you unconsciously lower your standard. In each of these cases, the original is clear, but the final signal is altered. And the field reads the final version, not the draft. This is what we call frequency leakage. Your conscious mind sets the tone. Your subconscious dilutes it. And the energetic output is a half-truth. And half-truths get ignored by the quantum field. Because the field is not responding to intentions. It's responding to coherence. Now let's ask the real question. Why is your subconscious editing your intention? Because it doesn't believe your nervous system can handle the upgrade. It sees new as unsafe. It sees expansion as exposure. It sees evolution as a threat to the identity it's sworn to protect. So it modifies your command to make it safe. Safer, smaller, slower, less bold, less certain, less disruptive, and your dream becomes diluted. Here's the breakthrough. You don't need to fight your subconscious. You need to re-educate it. Your subconscious isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to keep you from pain, even if that pain is no longer relevant. So when it starts rewriting your desire, pause. Thank it. Acknowledge the fear it's protecting. Then reissue the command with conscious authority. Say, I see that you're trying to protect me, but this is no longer dangerous. I understand your edits, but I'm safe now. I choose this desire fully. And when your subconscious hears your calm, grounded certainty, without fear, without panic, it begins to listen, not to survive, to support. Let's get even more precise. Sometimes the editing isn't mental. It's somatic. You feel tension in your stomach when you affirm something bold. You feel breath tighten when you visualize success. You feel heat or discomfort when you imagine love working out. That's the body resisting the command. And that tension is an editorial note. It says, this doesn't match our known. But that tension doesn't mean stop. It means recode. It means breathe into the new story long enough that the body stops rejecting it. You don't push. You practice. You hold the vision until the nervous system calls it home. You now know the truth. Your subconscious is the final filter. And if you don't update the filter, it will keep reshaping your desires to match your past. So your new job isn't just broadcasting bold intentions. It's creating a body and a mind that no longer edits the dream down to something familiar. And when that shift happens, your original signal, clear, unfiltered, aligned, finally reaches the field. And the field responds in kind. You've seen how the subconscious edits your desires without asking. Now we must ask this. What happens when the universe doesn't respond quickly enough? Is it really late? Or are you the one not calibrated for the arrival? Next, we dismantle the illusion of divine delay and reveal how quantum timing isn't about waiting. It's about readiness. You think the universe is taking too long, but what if you're the one not ready for delivery? Time to find the hidden preparation lag. You've been patient. You've been consistent. You've stayed high vibe. You've visualized, released, trusted, aligned, and still no shift. You start to wonder, why is it taking so long? Why am I still waiting? Why hasn't it arrived yet? Let's stop right here and break open the truth. The universe is not late. It doesn't delay out of carelessness. It doesn't forget your signal. It doesn't punish ambition. And it doesn't operate on your calendar. The universe operates on readiness. And readiness isn't about desire. It's about energetic compatibility, which means if something hasn't arrived, it's not because it's being withheld. It's because your field can't hold it yet. This is the concept most people never question. They think waiting is proof of delay. But delay is often protection. Not protection from punishment. Protection from collapse. Because receiving something you're not stabilized for is worse than not receiving it at all. You want the dream relationship, but you still fear abandonment. So love arrives and panic follows. You want the dream business, but your nervous system still ties money to survival. So success comes, and you self-sabotage to feel normal again. In both cases, the universe isn't being cruel by waiting. It's being intelligent. It's synchronizing your emotional capacity with your requested reality. Now let's talk about timelines. There's no such thing as universal delay in the way we define delay. There's only prepared or unprepared, open or blocked, safe or unsafe, in your own nervous system, energetically matched or mismatched. If you're not receiving, ask yourself, can I hold this without panicking? Can I sustain this without performing? Can I enjoy this without guilt? Can I grow this without reverting to struggle? If your body doesn't answer yes effortlessly, that's the lag, not in the field. In you, this doesn't mean blame. This means clarity. Because when you stop calling it a delay, you start seeing it as a signal. A signal to clean up your fear. A signal to stabilize your energy. A signal to recalibrate your capacity. And the faster you do that, the faster time bends. Because time isn't fixed. It stretches and contracts based on readiness. And readiness is alignment. Here's a common mistake. You push harder when things slow down. You try to manifest faster. You more. You visualize longer. You obsess over signs. You search for shortcuts. But all of that signals resistance, not alignment. Because the push assumes absence. The push assumes rejection. The push assumes delay. So what gets mirrored? More absence, more delay, more push energy. And push energy doesn't magnetize. It repels. Let's reframe what waiting really is. Waiting isn't passive. It's preparation in disguise. It's your internal architecture realigning to support what you've requested. It's your subconscious recalibrating to stop rejecting the arrival. It's your energy body learning how to expand its holding pattern. It's your identity dissolving the parts that can't coexist with what's coming. That's not delay. That's engineering. And it's sacred. So now we ask, are you actually in receiving mode? Or are you still trying to chase, earn, and grip the outcome? Receiving mode isn't passive. It's active trust. It's grounded presence. It's steady readiness. You feel calm, not desperate. You feel complete, not lacking. You feel expectant, not frantic. That energy moves timelines faster than anything else. Because once the field registers readiness, delivery becomes instant. Not always in linear time, but always in alignment time. And alignment time never makes mistakes. Here's the uncomfortable but liberating truth. Sometimes the universe is not waiting on your belief. It's waiting on your regulation. Because belief alone isn't enough. If your body still feels threatened by the new reality, it will block it. Even if your conscious mind wants it badly. You don't get what you believe. You get what your nervous system can support. And building that support system is your real job. Not waiting. Stabilizing. Let's bring this all together. If you've been waiting, stop calling it that. Instead ask, where am I still resisting what I've asked for? What version of me would feel natural living in that reality? What fears would have to dissolve for this to feel normal? What capacity must I increase to hold this outcome with ease? These aren't questions of time. They're questions of frequency. And the moment you align with the answers, everything accelerates. Because now, there's nothing left to wait for. You now understand that waiting isn't the field's error. It's your recalibration signal. But there's a related myth that must be broken next, because it's misleading millions. The idea that raising your vibration is all you need. It sounds beautiful, but it's dangerously incomplete. Next, we dismantle the vibration myth and reveal what really makes your energy magnetic. Everyone says raise your vibration, but that's only half the story. Let's explore what really makes your signal magnetic. You've heard it everywhere. Just raise your vibration. High vibes only. Stay positive. Match the frequency of what you want. And while that sounds empowering, it's not the full truth. In fact, it's often a trap. Because raising your vibration alone is not what magnetizes your desires. It's what you do with that vibration that determines your actual signal. This is the vibration lie. Believing that feeling good equals alignment. Feeling good helps. But it's not the whole equation. Let's get into the truth. Vibration is not a mood. It's not a temporary high. It's not a rush of inspiration or a good day. Vibration is your baseline signal, determined by your beliefs, your nervous system, your self-concept, and your emotional patterns. So you can have a high vibe moment. But if your dominant pattern is lack, the moment doesn't override the pattern. And that's the mistake most people make. They spike their energy temporarily. They feel amazing for an hour. They post about alignment. They feel like they've done the work. But when the spike fades, they return to their previous set point. And the field only responds to your set point, not your spikes. Let's illustrate the difference. Spikes are brief meditations that feel euphoric, visualizations that stir hope, affirmations said with conviction for a few minutes, emotional highs during journaling. Baseline is how you feel when nothing is happening, the stories you believe in silence, the way you talk to yourself in stress, the nervous system response you default to at night. Your baseline is your true frequency. The rest, decoration. So raising your vibration isn't about chasing highs. It's about reprogramming your lows. It's about shifting the baseline, not hitting peaks. Because peaks don't create consistency. Baselines do. And consistency is what the field reads as truth. Now let's talk about high vibe obsession. There's a belief in spiritual circles that low emotions should be avoided. That sadness, fear, anger, frustration are signs you're out of alignment. And so people repress. They fake it. They bypass. They shame themselves for feeling low. But repression doesn't raise your frequency. It fractures it. Because honesty is higher frequency than forced joy. Truth is higher than denial. Stillness is higher than fake positivity. You don't raise your vibration by avoiding darkness. You raise it by integrating darkness without letting it define you. Let's go deeper. A truly high vibration is stable. It's anchored. It's unshaken by triggers. It's not performative. It's not conditional. And that stability only comes when you face your shadows and neutralize them, not deny them, not vibe them away. Meet them, understand them, unhook from them. Then and only then does your vibration rise in a way that lasts. Now let's expose another part of the vibration lie. The belief that high vibration guarantees attraction. It doesn't, because you can be in a high state and still be unavailable for what you want. You can feel good, but still operate from lack-based programming. You can emit positivity, but still believe nothing ever works out for me. And the field mirrors the dominant signal, not the loudest, the dominant. So your work is not to feel good louder. It's to shift your dominant emotional tone to something sustainable. How? Catch your emotional habits when you're not trying. Listen to the language you use under pressure. Feel your breath when no one's around. Track the emotions you avoid. Normalize emotional safety without the high. These are your real vibration shifters. Not the playlist, not the ritual, not the mood board, but the pattern change in your internal world. Let's bring this into clarity. You don't attract based on how high you can spike your energy. You attract based on how consistently you live from a state of truth-based coherence. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be radiant all day. You just have to stop pretending. You just have to stop attaching your worth to your vibe. You just have to anchor into truth, not performance. That's what creates a stable, powerful magnetic field. You've now seen that vibration is not a trick or shortcut. It's a reflection of who you are when no one's watching. But what happens when your external world reflects the wrong message, and you start to believe that's your truth? Next, we uncover how your current reality creates a feedback loop, and how to finally break it before it becomes your future. Your life reflects your frequency, which you then take as truth and send back out. Let's break the feedback trap. Look around. Right now. Look at your relationships, your money, your body, your career, your time, your habits. That is your reality. But more importantly, it's your mirror. It's not telling you who you are. It's reflecting who you've been being. And that distinction changes everything. Because once you believe that current reality equals absolute truth, you stop questioning it. And when you stop questioning it, you start repeating it. That's how the feedback loop forms. And that loop doesn't just maintain your results. It amplifies them, even the ones you don't want. Here's how it works. You feel something consistently. That frequency emits a signal. Reality responds by reflecting that signal back. You observe it, and instead of questioning it, you accept it as truth. Now that you've accepted it, you internalize it. And once it's internalized, it becomes your new emotional baseline, which emits the same signal again. That's the feedback loop. And it can trap you inside a reality you were never meant to live. Not because you're cursed, but because you're misreading the mirror. Let's bring this down to the ground. You've been struggling financially. The struggle feels real. Your emotions respond. Fear, lack, anxiety. That becomes your vibration. Now the field says, got it. Fear and lack is the signal. Let's reflect that. So a bill shows up, or a deal falls through, or an unexpected expense appears. Now you panic. You think, see, this is just how my life is. You accept that reflection as a permanent truth, and that acceptance hardens into belief. Now your vibration gets reinforced with emotional data. The field picks up the upgraded signal of hopelessness, and it mirrors that, and the loop tightens. This is not just about money. This happens in love, in health, in creativity, in self-worth. Every time you let your current results define your identity, you hand your power over to the past. Because current results are not final truth. They are old energy with momentum, and they only repeat because you believe them. Your job isn't to fight reality. Your job is to correct the code it's reflecting. Let's be very clear. You are not here to react to life. You are here to code it. You are not here to obey the mirror. You are here to reprogram it. But to do that, you must first stop believing it so quickly. If you look in the mirror and see tired eyes, you don't assume you're doomed to exhaustion forever. You sleep. You hydrate. You shift. But when you look at your life and see scarcity, you assume it's permanent. You treat the symptom as identity. And that mistake costs you the shift. Here's how to break the loop. First, recognize that current reality is a lagging indicator. It is not showing what you desire. It is showing what you've already broadcasted for weeks, months, or even years. It's like sunlight from a distant star. It looks real, but the moment it hits your eyes, it's already old. So stop measuring your power by a reflection that has already expired. Second, observe without personalizing. When things go wrong, pause and say, this is feedback, not punishment, not proof, not identity, just feedback. Now you've created distance between the event and the meaning. That distance is what lets you edit your code without shame, and that editing ability is how you rewrite the loop. Third, inject a new signal before the loop recycles. This is the hardest part, because the mirror hasn't changed yet, and everything in you wants to say, it's not working. But this is the test. Will you wait for the mirror to change before you do? Or will you become the new frequency before the reflection arrives? Only one of those paths is power. Let's do a quick audit. Pick one area of your life that feels stuck. Now ask, what am I assuming this reality means about me? When did I first decide this is just how things are? What would happen if I stopped believing this version of truth? What emotion would I have to let go of to break the loop? These are not surface-level questions. They are key codes. Each answer dissolves a feedback chain. Each realization releases a frequency that no longer serves, and each release creates a vacuum for new energy to flow. The feedback loop is not evil. It's not personal. It's a mirror mechanism. And once you understand that, it becomes a compass, not a cage. But even with this awareness, most people fail to shift. Why? Because while they're working on the big picture, their smallest thoughts are working against them. Next, we zoom in, way in, because tiny internal moments, barely noticeable, can collapse the entire field. Now that you see the loop, let's get microscopic, because even one off thought can collapse a quantum possibility. You've visualized, you've clarified, you've aligned. The big stuff is in place. You're focused, you're grounded, you're energetically open. But then, without even noticing, you think a small thought. One sentence. Quick. Almost nothing. It goes like this. This always happens to me. It probably won't work out. I hope they don't flake again. What if I'm not good enough? That's too much to ask for. Let me not get my hopes up. Tiny, harmless seeming, background noise. But that one thought, that micro moment, it emits a counter signal. And if it repeats, it becomes a frequency. And if it holds, it collapses the larger field you were building. This is micro-sabotage. And it's how most manifestations die. Not with a crash, but with a whisper. Let's call it what it is. Your subconscious isn't trying to ruin you. It's testing your commitment. It's checking for energetic consistency. Because the field doesn't need volume. It needs coherence. And when you're blasting 90% aligned frequency, but allow 10% internal static to go unchecked, the field averages that signal. Not out of malice, out of mechanics. This is how the quantum system holds integrity. It only reflects stable, consistent, non-contradictory energy. So that small fear, that whispered doubt, it might be the single tone that warps the whole chord. Now here's the twist. Most of your micro-sabotage happens in neutral moments, not in crises, not in stress, but in the small pauses between actions, the silence before a reply, the space between checking your bank account and choosing your reaction, the breath you take when you're not performing. Those moments seem empty, but they're fertile, and if you fill them with weak thoughts, even passively, you weaken your field. Not because you're weak, but because your awareness fell asleep. Let's name some common micro-sabotage forms. Sarcastic self-talk masked as humor. Over-preparing just in case something fails. Bracing yourself emotionally for things going wrong. Dismissing compliments or good news with "we'll see." Comparing your path to someone else's highlight reel. Flinching at positive outcomes, then downplaying them. Each of these behaviors is like a tiny hole in the energetic bucket. One won't ruin everything, but dozens? That's a leak, and leaks delay delivery. How do you fix this? You don't force positivity. You practice neutral awareness. That means catching the small thought before it becomes a signal. That means labeling it, micro-sabotage, without shame. That means choosing silence over self-dismissal. Because silence is cleaner than self-harm disguised as realism. One of the most powerful upgrades you can make is this. Stop letting your first thought go unchecked. The first thought might be fear. Old, fast, reflexive. But the second thought, that one's yours. That one is where the real work happens. And the more often your second thought corrects the first, the more your nervous system learns safety, and the more your field learns consistency. And consistent energy always manifests. This isn't about becoming a perfectionist. It's about becoming inwardly sovereign. That means your internal world is not ruled by reflex. It's ruled by intentionality. It means no thought gets a free pass just because it was quiet. Because in the quantum field, quiet contradictions are just as loud. Let's end this chapter with a challenge. For the next 24 hours, don't let a single passive, self-defeating, dismissive, doubt-based micro-thought pass without awareness. Just awareness. Not perfection. Not correction. Just awareness. Label it. Witness it. Breathe. Because the moment you start noticing the small leaks, you stop the energetic hemorrhage that's been bleeding your manifestation potential dry. And when the leaks stop, your signal becomes unstoppable. Next, we tackle the most deceptive blocker of all. A single word that seems innocent, but secretly tells the universe to cancel your desires mid-transmission. That word, but, and now we'll find out how every sentence you say with it may be undoing everything you've built. I want it, but that one word may be undoing everything. Let's dissect your buts, pun intended, and clear the code. You say you want it. You affirm it. You visualize it. You feel it in your bones. Then you say the word that cancels it all. But I want to be financially free, but the economy is crashing. I know I'm meant for more, but I just don't have the time right now. I trust the universe, but what if it doesn't work out? I believe in abundance, but my rent is due next week. There it is. That one word. 3 letters. The ultimate energetic backspace. The but may feel like a bridge. It's not. It's a bulldozer that flattens your intention before it even leaves your throat. Let's understand why. In conversation, the word but serves one purpose: to invalidate or override whatever came before it. It doesn't just add context. It cancels. I love you, but. I believe in you, but. I want to help, but. You've heard those phrases before. You know the sting. Because the moment the but appears, everything before it disappears. The subconscious treats this the same way. It doesn't register both halves of the sentence equally. It takes the second half, the part after the but, as the real command, and the field responds accordingly. Now let's break this down energetically. When you say, I want to receive more clients, but nobody's buying right now. What does the field hear? It doesn't hear desire. It hears doubt as the dominant frequency. And because the quantum field responds to your most consistent signal, the second half wins every time. The but doesn't just qualify the statement. It replaces it. So your intention never even gets transmitted cleanly. It's internally overruled. Here's how this plays out in real time. You set a clear intention. You visualize. You affirm. You feel elevated. Then someone asks, how's it going? You say, it's going well. I'm just waiting for a few things to fall into place. But honestly, I'm not sure how it's all going to work. Boom. Just like that. Signal scrambled. Message distorted. Vibration destabilized. Not because you're being negative, but because the energy of contradiction was louder than the energy of conviction. You don't need to stop being honest. You don't need to fake confidence. But you do need to rewire the structure of how you speak, because your language is your interface, and your subconscious listens to every syllable. So when you put your dreams and your doubts in the same sentence, the stronger frequency wins. And when but shows up, it's usually the doubt that gets amplified. Now let's look at how to change this. The first shift is replacing but with and. It sounds simple, but this one switch can rewire your brain's energetic coding system. Compare, I'm building a successful business, but it's taking forever. Versus, I'm building a successful business, and it's taking longer than I expected. Subtle difference? Not to your field. The first implies conflict and energetic misalignment. The second allows for both truth and desire to coexist. I believe I'll meet the right partner, but dating is hard. Change that too. I believe I'll meet the right partner, and dating has been challenging. You keep both statements. You drop the contradiction, and now your frequency stays coherent. Why does this work? Because the subconscious doesn't just listen to what you say. It listens to how your language is structured. But structures collapse duality, and structures integrated. That means you can acknowledge the discomfort or delay without dismantling the desire. That's alignment, not blind optimism, not denial, integration. The second shift is to pause before your but moment arrives. Catch yourself mid-sentence. Feel the urge to say, I'm excited for the new job, but... Stop. Breathe. Ask, do I really want to inject doubt into this energy? If not, rewrite the sentence in real time. I'm excited for the new job. I still feel nervous about adjusting, and I trust I'll adapt. There's your real signal. Truth without cancellation. Clarity without contradiction. Here's a quick diagnostic. Go back through your recent conversations, messages, journal entries, affirmations, even internal self-talk. Count your buts. And not just literal ones. Look for phrases like, although, however, even though, unless. These are conditional cancel codes. They weaken the transmission. Not always, but often enough to dilute your magnetism. So when possible, clean it up. Let your language reflect the energy you want mirrored. Finally, this isn't just semantics. This is subconscious programming hygiene. The universe doesn't just read your mood. It reads the blueprint of how you code your reality. And your coding language is built from speech patterns. The more you speak in clear, integrated, non-canceling terms, the faster your field organizes to match it. Now you've cleared your but habit. Let's go wider. Because some of your everyday language, the phrases you use without thinking, may be reversing your manifestation signal daily. Let's decode the spells you cast with your casual speech that collapse your desires before they take form. Now that we know about language, let's talk emotion. Fear emits a frequency, and it leaves a signature trail behind. Let's talk about the thing you don't want to talk about. Not because it's shameful, but because it's subtle, and because it hides in plain sight. Anxiety. You call it worry. You call it overthinking. You call it just being realistic. But in the quantum field, it's none of those. It's a fear ping, and it sends a signature, one that reverberates through your entire frequency, even when everything else looks aligned on the outside. Fear pings are brief, electric. They don't last long, but they echo, because energy doesn't need time. It only needs direction, and fear pings give it the wrong direction. They tell the universe, I don't trust the outcome. I'm not safe in the unknown. I'm preparing for things to fall apart. And that energy, it scrambles the transmission. It injects noise into the signal. It makes your field unstable. You can have the perfect intention, the best language, the clearest vision board, and one single, consistent fear ping can override it all. Let's map it out. You're waiting on an email, an opportunity, a text, a green light. You visualize the outcome. You've read your journal. You've even said, I trust the timing. But you check your phone every 2 minutes. You reread the last message, overanalyzing. You plan a response to something that hasn't happened. You imagine worst-case scenarios just in case. Each of those moments is a fear ping. Each of them reinforces, I'm not grounded. I don't feel certain. I think this will slip away. And the field doesn't just mirror desires. It mirrors dominant signals. So if the fear pings outnumber the trust tones, guess which one gets reflected? Exactly. Anxiety is not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's a biological and emotional signal that safety is in question. But if left unexamined, it becomes a repetitive broadcast. And the universe can't tell if your fear is practical or imagined. It only sees the transmission. It only hears, this isn't safe. And so it pauses, because it won't deliver what your energy is bracing against. This isn't just about intense panic. It's about the tiny, daily habits that drip anxiety into your field. Refreshing email for no reason. Reading between the lines of every message. Preparing backup plans for backup plans. Pre-rejecting yourself before someone else might. Watching other people's wins and feeling left behind. Checking your bank account not for management, but to confirm lack. Each of these is an anxious ritual. And rituals become identity. And identity becomes frequency. Let's take this deeper. You may not even label it anxiety. You may call it being productive. You may say, I'm just double-checking. Or I'm just being thorough. But frequency doesn't understand labels. It understands rhythm. And if the rhythm of your daily life is fear disguised as control, the field calls that your dominant signal. Not what you affirm. Not what you hope. What you habitually feel. So what do? You don't try to fix anxiety. You witness it. You disarm it. You ground it. That means when the fear ping comes, you stop and say, this is my system looking for safety. I'm not in danger. I am allowed to hold space for unknowns without panic. You rewire your body's relationship to the unknown, because the unknown isn't the enemy. It's the delivery space of all manifestation. But if your nervous system interprets the unknown as a threat, it will reject the very future you're calling in. So here's the shift. Start training your body to sit with uncertainty without reaching for control. Instead of refreshing email, breathe. Instead of checking their profile, close the app. Instead of ing plan B, return to plan with trust. These acts don't feel powerful, but they are. Because power is not in knowing the outcome. Power is in not needing to. The moment you no longer fear the gap between intention and arrival is the moment your signal becomes magnetic. Let's close this with a practice. Catch your next fear ping. Don't suppress it. Don't scold it. Just name it. Then trace it. Ask, what am I afraid will happen? Is that fear rooted in the present or the past? What story am I projecting onto this moment? Is this a pattern I've seen before? Then choose. Not the fear, not the story, but the signal. The calm, grounded, confident transmission that says, I don't need to chase what's already mine. That is a signal the universe responds to fast. Now that you're tracking your fear, let's pivot, because the next form of misdirection is even sneakier. It happens when you cheer for others, but your subconscious secretly sends envy. It's when their success highlights your stuckness. And that contradiction, it rebounds your blessings before they ever reach you. Let's unpack that next. You cheer for others, but secretly compare. Let's expose the envy signal that stops your blessings mid-transit. You scroll. You see someone sharing their win. New house, new partner, new income goal smashed. You think, I'm happy for them. But something in your chest sinks. Your thoughts wander. Why not me? How are they always winning? I've worked just as hard. This is starting to feel personal. You tell yourself it's just a moment, but in the quantum field, it's a rebound moment, a redirection. Because every time you celebrate someone on the surface, but a mid-lack beneath, you generate an energetic contradiction, and that contradiction blocks your flow. Not because you're a bad person, but because the field hears everything. This is the quantum rebound. It's when you look outward and bounce your blessings away. Because the moment you measure your timeline against someone else's, your signal shifts from, I'm aligned with abundance, to, I'm falling behind. And that shift changes everything. Because now you're not anchored in your own frequency. You've borrowed someone else's milestone as your measuring stick. And every time you do that, the field pauses. Because your signal is no longer clear. It's no longer sovereign. Let's expose the patterns. You see someone succeeding and feel inspired, and immediately feel behind. You celebrate them publicly, and secretly question your worth. You post your own success, but it feels like performance, not joy. You wish others well, but wonder why it doesn't happen for you. You say it's not a race, but you still keep score. All of this matters, because the field doesn't sort emotion by intention. It registers vibration density. And if your energy tightens when others expand, the field will not confuse that as alignment. It sees contraction, and contraction delays manifestation. Let's clarify something crucial. You're not bad for feeling comparison. You're not flawed for resenting someone's breakthrough. These are default programs, installed by a society that pits everyone against each other for scarce resources. But the field doesn't follow scarcity rules. It operates on availability. And when you reject your own path by focusing on someone else's, you reduce your availability, not to punish, to protect. Because envy is a signal. I don't feel safe where I am. I don't trust my timeline. I doubt my deservingness. And those signals cannot coexist with manifestation energy. So what do? You return to energetic sovereignty. You say, I see their win, and that's proof of what's possible. Not evidence of my lack. You train your body to feel joy for others without loss of self. You turn their success into mirrors, not threats. You realize what you see in them lives in you, or you wouldn't notice it. And when you transmit appreciation instead of envy, you collapse the timeline faster than ever, because appreciation is magnetic, not just for what you have, but for what's on its way. Try this. Next time someone shares a win and your stomach flips, pause. Ask, what in this success do I feel disconnected from? What story am I telling about my path in comparison? What would I feel if I knew my breakthrough was already en route? Now breathe. Don't rush. Don't dismiss. Let the feeling surface. Then say, this is a trigger because I'm close, not because I'm failing. Let that recalibration settle. Now go back and bless their success for real. Because what you bless, you become available for. One final shift. Stop calling other people's wins luck. That phrase distances you from your power. Instead say, they aligned. They showed up. They're proof that timelines collapse. Now you've made yourself a vibrational peer, not an outsider. And the field picks up on that signal immediately. So now that you've stopped bouncing your blessings, let's address the root underneath it all. Do you actually feel worthy of receiving what you're asking for? That's the next layer. Because asking and allowing are not the same. And most people don't lack desire. They lack permission. Let's find out if you're really letting it in. Do you really believe you deserve it? Now we explore the quantum difference between asking and receiving. You've asked. You've visualized. You've done the work. You've journaled, affirmed, meditated, aligned. But the door stays closed. The outcome delays. The universe seems quiet. It's not because it isn't listening. It's because you're not allowing. Not consciously, but energetically. And 9 times out of 10, the blocker isn't the desire itself. It's your subconscious relationship to deserving. Let's start with a truth many people avoid. You don't receive what you want. You receive what you believe you're safe to hold. And most people only feel safe holding things that match their identity story. So if your identity story is still laced with guilt, shame, scarcity, or comparison, your nervous system will reject blessings out of habit. Not to punish you, to protect you. Because the subconscious is not wired for happiness. It's wired for familiarity. And if joy feels unfamiliar, if expansion feels dangerous, if ease feels like a trick, your system will quietly loop back into struggle, even while you're consciously begging for a breakthrough. This is the worthiness loop. It works like this. You set a desire. Your conscious mind aligns. But your subconscious says, "You're not ready for that." That message becomes a low-level tension. The tension becomes a subtle block. The field detects the block and pauses the delivery. You interpret the pause as rejection. That reinforces your unworthiness. You stop asking, or ask smaller. Loop repeats. This is how people slowly shrink their manifestations over time. They're not lazy. They're not lost. They're trapped in a loop of asking from lack and blocking from fear. Let's break this down emotionally. When you say, "I want to be wealthy," but deep down feel guilty about surpassing your family. "I want to be loved deeply," but still carry shame from past rejection. "I want visibility," but secretly fear being seen and judged. You create a double bind. The field receives both messages. The conscious yes, and subconscious a no. And when two opposing frequencies collide, they create static. And the universe doesn't respond to static. It waits, because it's waiting for clarity. So how do you exit the worthiness loop? Not by pushing harder, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by clearing the permission field. You must become emotionally available for what you're asking for. That means identifying the parts of you that still believe you have to earn it, comforting the inner protector that thinks success is dangerous, releasing the belief that blessings come with consequences. This isn't about convincing yourself you're good enough. It's about unlearning the codes that told you you weren't. Let's go deeper. Ask yourself right now, what's the part of me that still feels unworthy of having it all? Don't dodge the question. Sit with it. That part might say, "I'm scared I'll lose it. I don't want to be responsible for it. If I have it, they won't love me anymore. If I get it, something bad will happen." These are not just thoughts. They are energetic locks on your manifestation channel. And every lock you release increases your capacity to receive. Here's a practice. Write down your biggest desire. Now write, "What would I have to believe about myself to let this in fully?" Now circle what doesn't feel true yet. Those are your worthiness gaps. Don't shame them. Don't rush them. Hold them like a parent holds a child. Because these gaps don't close through effort. They close through compassion. And let's clear one more trap. You do not have to be perfectly healed to receive. You just need to be available. And availability begins the moment you say, "I'm willing to receive even before I feel fully ready. I'm willing to be loved while still learning. I'm willing to receive support without guilt. I'm willing to expand without shrinking to keep others comfortable." This is how the loop ends. Not with a bang, but with a soft, sustained yes to self-worth. Now that you've stepped into worthiness, let's tackle the next silent saboteur, the voice that sounds smart, the one that says, "Be realistic, think logically, don't get your hopes up." It wears a suit of wisdom, but it's just fear with a diploma. Let's meet the cleverest block of all. Be realistic. Sounds wise, right? Let's unpack how logic can be the most seductive block to miracles. Let's be realistic. You should have a backup plan. Don't get too excited just in case. Think this through. Sounds reasonable, right? Sounds rational, mature, grounded. But what if it's not? What if that voice isn't logic? What if it's fear wearing a tie? Because here's the truth. The most dangerous form of resistance doesn't sound like sabotage. It sounds like advice. This is disguised resistance, the kind that sneaks into your thinking under the banner of wisdom. And it's the hardest to detect. Why? Because it gets praised. People love you for being practical. You get approval for being cautious. You're seen as level-headed when you don't expect too much. But underneath the surface, you're training your energy to mistrust magic. You're teaching the universe you don't fully believe. And that hesitation, that guardedness, it mutates your signal. Let's decode this more clearly. You set a goal, a bold one. Your intuition feels it. Your body lights up. But then the reasonable voice kicks in. What if it doesn't work? You shouldn't rely on that. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a plan B just in case. And just like that, your frequency shifts from conviction to contingency. And manifestation doesn't respond to contingency energy. It responds to certainty, not from desperation, but from embodiment. Now let's be clear. Discernment isn't bad. Having structure isn't foolish. But true logic doesn't cancel desire. Only fear does. So when logic starts closing doors that intuition opened, it's not logic. It's internalized failure posing as foresight. It's past pain pretending to be pragmatism. And the field knows the difference. Let's look at the most common disguises. I just want to be smart about this. Translation. I don't trust that I'm supported. I need to be careful. Translation. I'm expecting pain. Let's be honest, that's too much to ask. Translation. I feel unworthy of that much good. Don't be unrealistic. Translation. Shrink your desire to match your past. Do you see? The logic isn't logical. It's recycled fear in a new costume. So how do you spot when logic is lying? Here's a test. Does this logical thought feel light or tight? Light thoughts create space. Tight thoughts create contraction. Logic that's aligned with your truth will feel expansive. It will open possibility. Logic born from resistance will feel dense. It will shrink the vision. That's your clue. Here's another test. Would this same thought make sense to the version of you who already has what you're asking for? If not, why are you letting it guide you now? Because remember, you're not trying to build a life that matches your fears. You're trying to build a life that matches your future self's frequency. And future you doesn't need backup plans for blessings already received. This brings us to the most powerful reframe. You can be grounded without shrinking. You can be discerning without doubting. You can be wise without limiting. That means you check the logistics, but still trust the leap. You build support systems, not cages. You hold faith and facts in the same hands. Now you're not being blindly optimistic. You're being energetically coherent. And coherence always creates. Let's close with a mindset shift. Next time the voice of logic tells you to shrink, pause and ask, is this protection or programming? Is this wisdom or worry? Is this thought making me magnetic or cautious? Would I speak this way to someone I believe in? Because you are someone you need to believe in. And when your energy becomes unapologetically aligned with your vision, that's when the field begins to organize everything around you to reflect it. So now that you've exposed resistance wearing logic's mask, let's patch the places where energy is leaking quietly. Because alignment doesn't just mean clean language and worthy beliefs. It also means plugging every micro drain on your power. And that's what we address next. Now you've unplugged resistance. It's time to find and seal the energy leaks that weaken your manifestation power. So far, you've caught the big blocks. Fear, doubt, unworthiness, control, disguised resistance. You've cleaned the top layer of your frequency. But now we go deeper. Because even after removing the obvious interference, there's another category of disruption that quietly chips away at your power. Energetic leaks. These are not dramatic. They don't announce themselves. They rarely show up in crisis. Instead, they show up in repetition, in habits, in small tolerations. And those tolerations drain you drop by drop until your field, once radiant, starts flickering without warning. Let's be clear. Manifestation doesn't require perfection, but it does require containment. When your energy is scattered across unaligned commitments, unresolved guilt, low vibration connections, and chronic self-betrayals, even the most powerful desire gets diluted because your system doesn't have enough coherence to carry the frequency to full delivery. So your life feels like a series of half-finished uploads. You start strong, you stall, you lose momentum, and it's not because you're weak. It's because your field is leaking charge. Let's name the leaks. Leak number 1, unspoken resentment. Every time you smile through frustration, every time you say it's fine when it's not, every time you accept what depletes you to avoid conflict, you create a micro tear in your boundary field. And over time, that tear becomes a full breach. Now your energy seeps out constantly, through your thoughts, your nervous system, your sleep, your interactions. And no amount of visualizing can override the subtle withdrawal from self that resentment generates. Leak number 2. Tolerating the misaligned. This one is sneaky. It's the good enough job. The it's not that bad relationship. The I'll just stick with it for now plan. Every place where you settle, you signal the field, I'm okay with less than what I truly desire. And when that becomes your energetic baseline, the field mirrors it consistently. This doesn't mean you need to blow up your life, but you do need to tell the truth internally, because pretending you're aligned when you're not is one of the loudest energetic leaks in existence. Leak number 3. Guilt-driven decisions. Doing things because you should. Saying yes when your body screams no. Choosing based on fear of disappointing others. These choices feel small, but each one bends your signal away from your authentic path. And once bent, your field begins emitting friction. You feel stuck, disconnected, blocked. But the block isn't in the desire. It's in the way your choices are wired to please others before they align with self. Guilt is a leaky frequency, and it never produces quantum results. Leak number 4. Unfinished energy. Every open loop, unpaid bill, unreturned message, half-read course, ghosted dream, ignored impulse, holds a tiny bit of your power. When those loops multiply, your presence splinters. Now your energy is not in the now. It's dispersed across tasks you're avoiding and commitments you've emotionally abandoned. You think it's harmless, but unfinished energy creates incoherence, and incoherence repels manifestation. Clean your field. Close the loops. Reclaim your power. Leak number 5. Neglecting the body. You can't raise your vibration if your physical vessel is constantly depleted. The body holds the charge. It anchors your frequency. So when you skip rest, ignore tension, fuel on stress, overstimulate, underhydrate, you weaken the signal carrier. Your energetic intentions may be strong, but your body can't hold them. It short circuits. So now manifestation feels inconsistent, not because the field isn't responding, but because your vessel isn't transmitting clearly. Leak number 6. Mental tab hoarding. If your mind is constantly running multiple tabs, replaying conversations, predicting outcomes, scanning for threats, you lose depth of focus. And frequency requires depth. So when your attention is split, your intention is diluted. And diluted intention equals weak magnetism. Unplug. Pause. Close the tabs. You're not here to be chronically available to chaos. You're here to channel clear, intentional creation. So how do you seal these leaks? One by one. Not overnight. Not with force. But with awareness and choice. Start small. Ask, what am I tolerating that's no longer aligned? Where am I saying yes to avoid discomfort? What unresolved tasks are holding my energy hostage? How can I support my body in becoming a clear vessel? Then choose one leak to close this week. Just one. Because every time you reclaim even a fragment of your energy, you amplify your signal. And amplified signals collapse timelines faster. Now that you've sealed your leaks, the field is quiet, ready. But there's one final misunderstanding to clear before you can fully harness the flow. It's the myth that wanting is enough. It's not. Desire is ignition. Alignment is fuel. Let's explore the gap most people miss and how to bridge it permanently. Desire is ignition, but alignment is fuel. Now we'll learn the art of quantum alignment. Let's get one thing straight. Desire isn't the problem. You know what you want. You've made lists. You've visualized. You've felt the feelings. You've said the affirmations. You've wanted harder than most people even dare to admit. So why hasn't it landed? Because desiring isn't the same as aligning. And most people are stuck in a feedback loop of craving without coherence. They feel the spark, but not the integration. They hold the vision, but not the structure. They emit the frequency, but not long enough to stabilize it. Desire says, I want this. Alignment says, I'm available for this. And that difference is everything, because the field responds not to how badly you want something, but to how willing you are to become the version of you that already holds it. If that version is unbuilt, unreachable, or undefined, then the desire can't land. It has nowhere to go. Let's break this down. You want financial freedom, but your habits still reflect survival. Your nervous system still locks up every time you open your banking app. You still say, "I can't afford that," out loud. You desire abundance, but your alignment reflects lack. So the field mirrors back the truth of your pattern, not the hope of your words. You want deep love, but you avoid vulnerability. You chase emotionally unavailable people. You withhold your truth to avoid conflict. You desire intimacy, but your alignment reflects protection. So the field mirrors guardedness, not connection. You want to be seen, but you stay silent online. You downplay your genius. You criticize your appearance before anyone else can. You desire visibility, but your alignment reflects self-censorship. So the field mirrors invisibility, not impact. This is the missing piece for most people. They expect desire to pull them forward. But the quantum field doesn't move toward desire. It moves toward frequency resonance. And if you haven't built the inner architecture of the life you want, there's no structure for the signal to occupy. So it skips you, not out of rejection, out of misfit. Alignment means your thoughts, words, actions, and nervous system are in agreement with the future you're calling in. It doesn't mean perfection. It means coherence. That your yes doesn't get overridden by 17 unconscious no's. That your body feels safe holding more, not just craving it. That your daily rituals reflect your intention, not just your imagination. So here's your alignment audit. Pick your biggest desire. Now ask, am I thinking the way someone who already has this would think? Am I speaking about it with clarity or confusion? Are my habits reinforcing this future or repeating my past? Does my nervous system feel safe with this desire or tense? Now circle what's not congruent. That's your work, not to fix, but to bring into alignment. You don't need to fake belief. You need to practice identity. Start acting from the frequency of the version of you who already has what you want. Not to trick the universe, but to embody the signal that matches the life you say you're ready for. This is how timelines collapse. This is how desire becomes gravity. Not because you want it louder, but because you're now the perfect match. Here's your practice. Each morning ask, what would align me do today? What is one action that anchors my future into my present? Where can I be more coherent in thought, speech, and body? Then act, not from hustle, but from integration, and watch as the field begins to mirror the signal you didn't just declare, but became. Now that you've mastered alignment, there's a final calibration to make. Are you wanting to escape your current life, or expand into your next one? Because only one signal creates lasting transformation. Let's decode the difference next. You want a new life, but are you escaping the old or expanding into the new? Let's find out, because only one works. At first glance, wanting something different feels like progress. More money, better relationships, a new city, a healthier body, a sense of freedom you've never tasted before. On the surface, it's all expansion. Or at least, that's the story you tell yourself. But here's the truth most people avoid. A lot of expansion is actually escape in disguise. It's not about creating more. It's about running from less. And the quantum field doesn't respond to running, because running is still anchored to the thing you're fleeing. Let's look at how this works. You say, I want more money. But the driver underneath is, I don't want to feel the stress of bills anymore. You say, I want a new relationship. But underneath, I don't want to feel this loneliness anymore. You say, I want to move to a new city. But underneath, I don't want to be surrounded by these same problems anymore. The words sound expansive. The energy is contractive. Why? Because escape still orbits the old story. You're not moving toward the new. You're just trying to get far enough from the old, so it stops hurting. And that's not creation. That's avoidance. Here's the quantum rule. The field organizes itself around what you're focused on. And escape keeps you focused on the very reality you're trying to leave. So you recreate it in a different costume. You leave the job, but the next one feels just as suffocating. You win the relationship, but the next one has the same emotional patterns. You move cities, but your same triggers follow you into the new streets. Because you never shifted your base frequency. You just shifted your scenery. Expansion is different. Expansion says, I'm moving toward a bigger capacity. I'm stepping into a new experience because I can hold more. I'm choosing to elevate, not because I hate where I am, but because I'm ready for what's next. This energy isn't about avoiding pain. It's about claiming space. It's not motivated by rejection of the present. It's motivated by the possibility of the future. And because the quantum field responds to availability, not avoidance, expansion draws in more, faster. So how do you know if you're escaping or expanding? Ask yourself, if I knew I could never run from this current situation, what would I do differently right now? Am I more focused on what I don't want, or on what I'm creating? Does my vision feel light and open, or tense and urgent? Am I motivated by desire or by discomfort? If your answers are heavy, urgent, or defensive, you're probably in escape mode. And here's the thing, escape isn't evil. Sometimes it's the first step toward change. But if you stay there, you'll never stabilize a new frequency. You'll always need something to run from. To shift from escape to expansion, you have to neutralize the old story. That means, stop rehearsing how bad it's been. Stop narrating your struggle as your identity. Stop looking for proof that you're stuck. Instead, saturate your awareness with the texture of the future. Feel the space of it, the breath in it, the ease of it. Not because you're desperate to leave the old, but because the new is already here in frequency, and you want to step fully into it. When you live in expansion, you're not chasing relief. You're cultivating resonance. And resonance doesn't need to push away the old. It naturally draws in the new, and the old simply dissolves. Now that you know the difference, there's a deeper shift to make. It's not just about choosing expansion. It's about becoming the version of you who lives there permanently. And that, right there, is the work of identity shifting. Next, we'll break it down to its core. Now we explore one of the universe's deepest rules. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. The manifestation conversation is filled with talk about desire, about clarity, about alignment. All true, all important. But there's a rule under all of it that almost no one talks about plainly. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. And what you are is defined by your identity, not your wish list. Your identity is the operating system that runs every thought, emotion, and behavior. It determines what opportunities you notice, what risks you take, how much you allow in, what you believe you can sustain. It's the silent architect of your entire reality. And here's the thing. If your identity is outdated, no amount of surface-level desire will override it, because your subconscious will always snap you back to what's familiar. Let's see how this plays out. You want wealth, but your identity says, I'm someone who gets by, but never really gets ahead. You get a financial breakthrough, but spend it, sabotage it, or lose it, because the identity didn't update. You want love, but your identity says, I'm the one who's always chosen last. You meet someone incredible, but you misinterpret signals, withdraw, or overcompensate until it collapses, because the identity didn't update. You want health, but your identity says, I've always struggled with my body. You make progress, but eventually drift back into old habits, because the identity didn't update. This is why identity shifting is the most powerful manifestation tool on the planet, because when your self-concept changes, everything else rearranges to match, not slowly, not conditionally, immediately in frequency, then physically, in perfect timing. So how do you shift identity? Step 1. Define the next version of you. Be specific. How do they think? How do they speak? How do they spend their time? How do they make decisions? How do they carry themselves? Step 2. Interrupt the old loops. Notice every time you act, think, or speak in ways that match the old self. Don't shame it. Just redirect. Step 3. Rehearse the new self daily. Not pretending, not faking, practicing until it feels natural. Step 4. Anchor it in the body. Identity isn't just mental. It's physical. Your posture, your tone, your breath, all signal who you are. Step 5. Hold it even without evidence. This is the part most people skip. They wait for external proof before claiming the identity. But identity shifting works in reverse. You become first, then the proof appears. And yes, it feels awkward at first, because you're breaking the gravitational pull of your old self. The nervous system will try to pull you back into safe patterns. But the more consistently you hold the new identity, the more your subconscious accepts it as truth. And once it's truth internally, the external has no choice but to match. Here's a test for your current identity. Ask, what's something I want that feels far away? And who would I need to be for it to feel close? Then begin now, not someday. Not when the circumstances make it easy. Now, when you shift your identity, you no longer have to try to manifest. Your desires arrive because they have no resistance point left to push against. They meet the frequency of someone who's already living them. And in the quantum field, sameness attracts sameness. Next, we're going to explore the mirror effect. How every single thing around you right now is a direct reflection of your current identity and signal. Understanding this will show you exactly where your reality is already aligned and where it's begging for an update. The world around you is not reacting to you. It's reflecting you. Let's decode your mirror. You wake up. You check your phone. There's a message that stresses you out. You scroll through social media. Someone's bragging about their win. You feel the pinch of comparison. You glance at your bank account. Low balance again. You think, why does life keep giving me this? Here's the part that can feel uncomfortable. Life isn't giving you anything. It's showing you everything. Your reality is a mirror, and it has only one job: to reflect back your current energetic state, beliefs, and self-concept. Not to punish you, not to test you, but to show you the code you're running. Think of it like this. If you want to know how your face looks, you check a mirror. The mirror doesn't make you look that way. It just reflects. Reality works the same way. If you want to know what signal you're sending into the quantum field, look at the conditions in your life. Your relationships mirror your sense of worth and boundaries. Your finances mirror your beliefs about flow, safety, and receiving. Your opportunities mirror your level of self-trust and openness. Your daily environment mirrors what you've decided you're available for. This is not about blame. It's about feedback. Because when you see reality as feedback instead of fate, you step out of victim mode and into calibration mode. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what part of me is this reflecting back? That one shift alone can accelerate manifestation faster than any technique. Here's how to read your mirror. Step 1. Pick one area of your life right now that feels stuck, heavy, or frustrating. Step 2. Write down the conditions exactly as they are, no sugarcoating. Step 3. Ask, what belief, habit, or identity piece in me is this reflecting? Step 4. Don't judge the answer. Just notice. Example, your dating life feels full of flaky connections. Reflection, possibly that you're emitting an "I'm not fully available either" signal. Your income fluctuates wildly. Reflection, possibly that you still believe money is unstable. Your friendships feel draining. Reflection, possibly that your boundaries are porous. The mirror is never random. It's precise, unbiased, immediate. The danger is when you fight the reflection instead of adjusting the source. If you stand in front of a mirror with messy hair, you don't yell at the glass. You fix your hair. Yet in life, people try to change the reflection without shifting the origin. They manipulate circumstances, force outcomes, or mask symptoms. But the mirror only changes when you do. Here's a reframe that will help you love the mirror, even when it's showing you something uncomfortable. It's not here to shame you. It's here to liberate you. Because the moment you shift internally, the mirror must follow. Not because the universe decides to reward you, but because it's a law of resonance. What you are inside can't help but appear outside. So the next time you see something in your reality you don't like, ask, What's the quickest way I can align my internal state with the outcome I do want? Then shift from there. And once you're tuned in to how the mirror works, there's a powerful amplifier for alignment: gratitude. But here's the twist most people miss. Gratitude can strengthen your manifestation signal, or sabotage it completely. The difference comes down to whether it's authentic or forced. Let's break that down. Gratitude isn't a checklist, it's a signal. Let's find out if yours is authentic or blocking your results. Gratitude. Every manifestation book mentions it. Every coach recommends it. And for good reason. Genuine gratitude is one of the highest, clearest frequencies you can emit. It tells the quantum field, I'm resourced. I am supported. I am open for more. And the field responds by matching that signal with more to be grateful for. But here's where it goes wrong. When gratitude becomes a performance instead of a state. When you write lists of things I'm grateful for while secretly feeling disappointed, resentful, or empty. When you force yourself to thank the universe for things you don't actually feel good about because someone told you that's how you manifest. That's not gratitude. That's bypassing. And bypassing emits static. Why? Because the field responds to your true frequency, not the words you say. If you say, I'm so grateful for my job, but inside, you're stressed and unfulfilled, the signal being sent isn't gratitude. It's frustration dressed in spiritual clothing. If you say, I'm so thankful for my current home, but inside, you feel cramped and unsafe, the signal isn't thankfulness, it's resistance masked as politeness. And the universe isn't fooled by polite, it's reading the energy underneath. This doesn't mean you have to love everything in your life. It means gratitude works when it's authentic, and authenticity starts where you are. If you can't feel genuine gratitude for something, don't fake it. Instead, find something real you can feel grateful for, even if it's small. A comfortable chair, a friend who gets your humor, the warmth of your coffee in the morning, a moment of quiet before the day starts. Start there. That's your true access point. Because here's the thing. Gratitude isn't a mental trick to get more. It's an energetic alignment with having. And you can't align with having by pretending. You align by feeling, even if the feeling starts tiny. And when you let those tiny truths expand, the signal strengthens naturally. Here's a way to clean your gratitude signal. Step 1. Make your list, but pause after each item. Step 2. Ask, do I actually feel this? Step 3. If yes, breathe into it and let it expand. Step 4. If no, cross it off and find something you do feel. Over time, this practice rewires your nervous system to spot the real, and the real is magnetic. One more gratitude glitch to avoid. Gratitude with an agenda. If you're being grateful because you think it will make the universe give you what you want faster, that's not gratitude. That's bargaining. And bargaining operates from lack. Lack says, I'm grateful so you'll give me more. True gratitude says, I'm grateful because I already have. Feel the difference? The first is transactional. The second is transformational. When you get this right, gratitude stops being a chore. It becomes a constant hum in your field. And from that hum, your reality begins to rearrange itself, not because you forced it, but because your frequency has become a magnet for more good. Next, we're going to lean into one of the most counterintuitive truths in manifestation. Sometimes, the most magnetic thing you can do is nothing, and understanding the difference between stillness and stagnation is key. Now that you've worked hard internally, here's the paradox. The most magnetic thing you can do is stop doing. We've been taught that progress equals movement, that if you want something, you have to hustle, push, work harder, stay busy. It's a deeply ingrained cultural code. Movement means results, and stillness means laziness. But in the quantum field, the rules are different. Here, stillness isn't absence of power. It's concentration of power. Because when you're still, internally and externally, you stop scattering your energy in 1,000 directions. You stop sending mixed signals. You stop chasing. And in the absence of chasing, your frequency stabilizes enough for the field to deliver. Think about how a radio works. If you keep spinning the dial, you'll never catch the station clearly. The signal comes through when you stop tuning long enough for it to lock in. Your manifestation signal works the same way. If you're constantly doing from anxiety, changing plans, adding affirmations, tweaking the vision, you never give the field a stable frequency to respond to. This doesn't mean stillness equals inaction forever. It means there are phases in the manifestation process where the most aligned thing you can do is nothing. No meddling, no forcing, no proof hunting. You let the energy you've already set in motion gather momentum, because energy builds in stillness. Here's why people resist this. Stillness can feel like loss of control, and loss of control activates the part of your mind that believes, if I'm not doing something, nothing is happening. But that's a surface-level truth. At the quantum level, stillness is active trust. It says, my signal is clear. My request is made. I'm holding the frequency and allowing the field to do its part. It's partnership instead of micromanagement. Now, stillness is not the same as stagnation. Stagnation is withdrawal from life because you're afraid. Stillness is withdrawal from unnecessary interference because you're aligned. In stagnation, the energy collapses. In stillness, the energy expands. The difference is in the state you're holding. Stagnation feels heavy, hopeless, resigned. Stillness feels calm, open, anticipatory. Here's how to practice powerful stillness. Step 1. Decide what's done. This means you've chosen the desire, aligned with it, and are now holding it without pushing. Step 2. Remove checking behaviors. No obsessive looking for signs, timelines, or proof. Step 3. Fill the space with nourishing presence. Read, rest, create for fun, walk, meditate. Step 4. Notice the urge to meddle and don't. Each time you resist, you amplify your magnetism. Step 5. Trust the lag. Energy often builds just before the breakthrough. The irony is, the moment you stop scrambling for your manifestation, it's freed from your grip, and in that freedom, it can finally reach you. Now, stillness is not the end game. It's one part of the cycle. Once the energy shifts, you'll feel the impulse to move. Not from fear, not from urgency, from inspiration. And that brings us to the next piece. Acting only when the action is aligned with magic. Stillness isn't stagnation. Let's learn how to act from inspiration instead of desperation. Once you've given your manifestation the gift of stillness, something changes. A subtle urge appears. An idea drops in. A person comes to mind. An opportunity shows up in your awareness. It's quiet. It's gentle. And it doesn't come with the frantic energy of, you have to do this right now or else. That's inspired action. It's the moment the quantum field delivers the breadcrumb that connects your present state to your desired outcome. And when you act on it, you stay in flow. Inspired action is different from the action most people take. Most people act from desperation, moving because they're afraid of losing time, missing out, or being left behind. Desperation action is rooted in lack. It says, I'm not okay unless this works. Inspired action is rooted in sufficiency. It says, I'm okay now, and I'm excited to follow this. The energy behind the action determines the result. Here's how to recognize inspired action. It feels light, even if it stretches you. There's a sense of possibility, not dread. It arrives naturally. You're not forcing ideas. The idea comes to you. It feels specific. Inspired action usually has clarity. Call this person. Sign up for this event. Write this post. It feels energizing. Even if it requires effort, the effort feels alive. It aligns with your bigger frequency. It matches the state of the version of you you're becoming. The trick is, you can't force inspired action. It only shows up when your frequency is coherent enough for the field to give you the next step. And it often arrives when you're not thinking about your manifestation at all. That's why stillness is so important. It creates the space for inspiration to appear. Once the nudge comes, your job is to respond quickly, not recklessly, but without letting overthinking strangle the impulse. Because inspired action has an energetic window. Act in that window, and you're carried by momentum. Wait too long, and the window closes, not because the opportunity disappears forever, but because the energy that made it magnetic dissipates. Here's a simple practice for cultivating inspired action. Morning check-in. Ask yourself, what would feel most exciting, aligned, or obvious to do today toward my vision? Listen for the first honest answer, not the one you think you should have. Throughout the day, when a nudge comes, pause. Ask, is this fear-driven or desire-driven? If it's desire-driven and coherent with your vision, take the step. Evening reflection. Know what inspired actions you took and how they felt. This strengthens your trust in the process. One important note, inspired action doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it's sending an email. Sometimes it's cleaning your workspace. Sometimes it's making a phone call you've avoided. The glamour isn't the point. The alignment is. Because each aligned action sends a ripple through the field saying, this is who I am. This is the reality I'm available for. And the field responds to that with precision. The more you live from this rhythm, stillness, inspiration, aligned movement, the less you rely on force. Life stops feeling like a grind. Your manifestations stop feeling like uphill battles. They start arriving through a mix of intuition and timing you could never have strategized. Now that you can move in alignment, you need to refine how you read the signals coming back to you. Because not everything you think is a sign is actually guidance, and misreading the field can send you in circles. Let's untangle that next. Was that a sign? Or just your imagination? Let's master the difference. You've probably experienced this. You think about someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they text you that day. You see repeating numbers, 111, 444, on license plates, receipts, clocks. A random conversation you overhear seems to answer the question you've been wrestling with. Moments like this feel like the universe is speaking, and sometimes it is. Other times, it's not. It's just noise. The skill is learning the difference, because when you can read the field accurately, you stop chasing false leads and start acting on real guidance. Here's the first thing to know. The universe is always in communication with you. But not every piece of data that crosses your path is a personal message. Some things are just coincidence. Some are the result of your brain's pattern-seeking nature. Some are truly feedback loops responding to your current signal. The difference is in the alignment and repetition. True signs have three qualities. Relevance. They connect directly to what you've been focusing on or intending, without you forcing the link. Recurrence. They repeat in different contexts until you acknowledge them. Resonance. They carry a felt sense of meaning in your body. Calm, clarity, expansion, rather than anxiety or obsession. Let's break these down. Relevance. If you've been holding an intention for a career shift, and a conversation, an article, and a podcast all point you toward the same niche within days, that's relevant. If you've been thinking about travel, and a billboard for a random airline pops up once, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a billboard. Recurrence. True signs will loop back. If it's guidance, you'll encounter it multiple times through unrelated channels. The field doesn't mind being persistent. Resonance. This is the most important. A sign that's real will feel aligned in your body, not in your logic. It will bring clarity, not urgency. Peace, not panic. Where people go wrong is attaching meaning to every single external coincidence. You think of a word, you see it later, and you decide it's a message. But the brain is wired to notice patterns. It's not always the universe. When you mistake noise for a sign, you end up moving from impulse instead of alignment. That's how you waste energy chasing things that don't actually connect to your desired timeline. So how do you filter? Step 1. When something feels like a sign, pause. Step 2. Ask yourself, does this connect clearly to my current intention? Step 3. Notice, has this shown up more than once in a short period? Step 4. Feel, do I sense expansion or contraction in my body right now? If the answers line up, yes, expansion, you're probably looking at guidance. If not, it's noise. Let pass. One more nuance. The universe also uses block signs, signals that you're off track. They feel heavy, resistant, or chaotic. They're the sudden red flags, the everything falls apart moments. These are not punishments. They're corrections. And if you can read them without ego, they save you months, sometimes years, of going the wrong way. The better you get at reading real signs, the easier it is to follow the path of least resistance toward your manifestation. But that path isn't fixed. Every moment, you're standing at a split in timelines, and the choice you make next determines which one solidifies. Let's map that out. Every decision branches a timeline. Let's discover how you're choosing your reality every moment. Right now, there are countless versions of you existing in parallel timelines. One where you've already achieved your dream life. One where you took the safe route and stayed in your comfort zone. One where you're living in a completely different country. One where you made a single different choice 5 years ago, and everything changed. All of these possibilities exist in the quantum field simultaneously, and you move between them through your state and your choices. This isn't theory, it's physics. In quantum mechanics, every potential reality exists as a probability wave until it's collapsed into one outcome by observation and interaction. In human terms, your attention and your actions collapse a potential into your lived experience. And every choice, big or small, is a fork in the road. Here's the thing. Most people think only the big choices matter. Taking a job, moving cities, ending the relationship. But in reality, your micro-choices are constantly tilting you toward one timeline or another. Whether you scroll for an hour or spend it creating. Whether you speak up or stay silent. Whether you invest in your growth or put it off. Each choice is a vote for a version of you, and that version lives in a specific timeline. The key to quantum alignment is becoming aware of the state you're in when making these choices. Because your state determines which version of you you're voting for. If you choose from fear, you collapse into a timeline where fear is the dominant frequency, and outcomes match it. If you choose from expansion, you lock into a timeline where expansion compounds. Here's a way to work with this consciously. Step 1. Before making any decision, pause. Step 2. Ask, which version of me is making this choice? The one in lack or the one in abundance? Step 3. Choose as the version who already lives the reality you want. This isn't about perfection. You'll still wobble. But the more often you choose from your future identity, the faster you anchor into its timeline. One of the most liberating truths about timelines is this. You are never stuck. At any moment, you can make a choice, internally or externally, that shifts you into a higher probability reality. You don't have to fix the past. You don't have to wait for the future. You shift now, and reality reorganizes around you. And once you understand that, the next step is learning the most powerful influence you have over which timeline becomes your lived reality, where you place your attention. That's the observer effect, and it's next. Now that you see timelines, here's the real power. What you observe, you collapse. Choose wisely. In quantum physics, the observer effect is simple but staggering. The act of observation changes the outcome. At the subatomic level, particles exist in a state of probability. They are waves of potential, everywhere and nowhere at once. But the moment they are observed, they take a definite position. You are not separate from this process. In fact, you're living it constantly. Your attention is the act of observation. And every time you place your attention on something, you collapse the potential into form. Here's where it gets practical. Whatever you focus on, not just glance at, but truly attend to, gains weight in your reality. If you focus on lack, you collapse the lack version of your reality into form. If you focus on opportunity, you collapse the opportunity version of reality. If you focus on fear, you energize the fearful timeline. If you focus on solutions, you energize the solved one. This isn't metaphor. It's physics applied to consciousness. People often misinterpret this and think they need to ignore anything negative completely. But it's not about denial, it's about dominance. Which signal dominates your field more? The one of lack or the one of abundance? the one of chaos, or the one of coherence. When you understand the observer effect in your life, you stop letting unconscious attention collapse realities you don't want. Here's a quick test. For the past week, what's had the majority of your focus? Problems or possibilities? Proof you can have what you want, or proof you can't? Moments of alignment, or moments of resistance? Whatever your answer, that's the reality you've been reinforcing. The trick is not to police every thought. That's impossible and exhausting. The trick is to consciously redirect your sustained attention. It's the repeated focus that cements a reality, not the random flash. So, you start catching yourself mid-focus and asking, is this the reality I want to solidify? If yes, keep going. If no, pivot. Here's a practice that makes this tangible. Step 1. Pick one desired outcome you want to experience as if it's already real. Step 2. Each time your mind wanders to its opposite, pause. Step 3. Say, that's not my reality, and bring your attention back to the desired one. Step 4. Visualize, affirm, or simply feel what it's like to live that outcome. Over time, the repetition strengthens that probability wave until it's the only one that makes sense to collapse. Now, knowing this is one thing, living it is another. Many people understand manifestation intellectually. They've read the books, watched the videos, learned the theory, but their day-to-day state doesn't match what they know. The gap is between concept and embodiment. Closing that gap is where manifestation stops being an effort and becomes your default. Let's bridge it. You know it intellectually. Now we shift into embodiment, living the code, not just understanding it. There's a moment in every manifestation journey where you realize, I already know all of this, but my life doesn't reflect it yet. That's the trap of conceptual knowledge. You can explain alignment, the law of resonance, the role of beliefs, but until you're living it as an automatic state, it's not embodiment. Embodiment is when your nervous system, your subconscious, and your actions all match the reality you want. No forcing, no constant remembering. It's simply who you are. Think of it like learning to walk. As a baby, you're conscious of every step. You wobble, you fall, you get up again. But now you walk without thinking. It's automatic. Manifestation can work the same way. At first, it's conscious practice, noticing thoughts, redirecting attention, feeling the frequency of the future, acting in alignment. But over time, those practices wire into your default mode. You become the version of you who naturally emits the signal that matches your desired life. The shift from concept to embodiment requires 3 things. Identity shift. You stop trying to manifest like the person you are now and start being the person who already has it. Every choice, every thought, every decision runs through that identity filter. State stabilization. You learn to hold your desired emotional frequency even when conditions aren't perfect. You stop being knocked out of alignment by every wobble in reality. Action integrity. Your daily habits and micro-choices are consistent with your desired outcome. No more sending a clear signal in meditation and then contradicting it all day. A simple embodiment question. If my desired reality was already here, how would I show up today? Ask it every morning, and then follow through. If you'd feel confident, choose clothes, posture, and speech that express it. If you'd feel free, make at least one decision today that prioritizes freedom. If you'd feel abundant, act like someone who trusts there's more where that came from. It's not pretending. It's practicing the state until it becomes natural. And here's the most important part. Embodiment accelerates manifestation, not because it tricks the universe, but because it makes you a match for the reality you want now, not someday. The universe doesn't deliver based on time. It delivers based on resonance. When you're already in the resonance, a physical shift becomes inevitable. Once you've embodied the code, something magical happens. You stop pushing against reality and start bending it, not through control, but through flow. That's where reality surfing comes in, and it's next. You're not meant to push upstream. Let's learn how to surf realities like a quantum wave rider. Most people approach life like they're swimming upstream. Every goal feels like a battle. Every shift feels like a climb. Every challenge feels like a wall to break through. But quantum alignment isn't about forcing the river to flow your way. It's about positioning yourself so you can ride the current. This is what I call reality surfing. Instead of fighting against circumstances, you move with the existing flow of energy while subtly steering toward the reality you want. Here's the first truth about surfing realities. The current is already moving. Life is in constant motion. Opportunities, people, events, they're all flowing in patterns. Some patterns lead closer to what you want. Others drift you away. If you're not conscious, you can be pulled into currents that don't serve you, and mistake struggle for progress. The skill of reality surfing is in choosing which current to catch, and that choice happens through your state. When you're aligned, calm, clear, confident, you naturally spot and feel currents that match your desired reality. When you're misaligned, frantic, doubtful, resentful, you notice and step into currents that mirror that state. That's why inner work isn't just personal growth. It's navigation training. Here's how to reality surf. 1. Spot the wave. Pay attention to synchronicities, ideas, or opportunities that carry ease. If it feels like the door is opening without force, that's a wave worth catching. 2. Paddle with intention. This is your moment to put in effort, but only enough to match the wave, not overpower it. In practical terms, it means taking the step that feels aligned without slipping into control mode. 3. Ride without grip. Once you're on the wave, stop trying to micromanage it. Let the momentum carry you. This is where trust deepens, because the wave will take you further than your effort alone ever could. 4. Exit smoothly. Not every wave carries you to shore. Some fade. When the energy ends, don't cling. Release, regroup, and wait for the next one. The beauty of reality surfing is that it removes the burnout from creation. You stop trying to brute force the universe into submission. You start working with it. And here's the twist. Sometimes the wave you catch isn't your dream wave. It might look unrelated, but often it's the exact bridge you need to get to the reality you've been aiming for. When you surf like this, life starts to feel lighter. You begin to trust the rhythm. And in that trust, your magnetism grows, because nothing repels manifestation faster than desperation. But even when you're surfing well, you might notice something curious. Right before a breakthrough, something comes along to rattle you, to tempt you back into old patterns, to test whether you're truly stable in your new frequency. That's not sabotage. It's a pattern you want to understand deeply. You're aligned, and then chaos hits. Is it failure or final confirmation? Here's the truth about the test. You've been holding your vision. Your state is strong. Synchronicities are everywhere. Things are flowing. Then, an unexpected bill arrives. An old trigger resurfaces. An opportunity falls through. Someone questions your ability. It's tempting to think, I must have fallen out of alignment, or the universe is against me. But often, what's happening is what I call the confirmation test. Here's how it works. When you shift your state and identity, you're essentially locking into a new timeline. But your old timeline hasn't completely dissolved yet. It's still nearby, still accessible. The test isn't the universe punishing you. It's life presenting you with a choice point. Will you react from your old self and re-enter the old reality? Or will you hold the new frequency, proving to yourself and the field that this is your baseline now? Think of it like crossing a bridge. Midway across, the wind picks up. It's not there to push you back. It's there to show you that you can keep walking, even in resistance. The moment you do, the bridge behind you begins to vanish. The old reality loses its pull. Tests often show up in 3 forms. Temptation back to comfort. An old opportunity, relationship, or habit reappears. Something that feels familiar but doesn't match your new standard. Trigger under pressure. A situation arises that pokes at your old wounds, giving you a chance to respond from your new identity instead of your old programming. Sudden disruption. Something shifts unexpectedly, challenging your ability to hold trust and alignment without visible proof. Passing the test doesn't require perfection. It requires persistence and state. When you hold your new frequency despite the wobble, you send a signal to the field. This isn't a phase. This is me now. And the field adjusts accordingly. Here's a way to navigate the test. Step 1, pause before reacting. Step 2, ask, if my desired reality were already here, how would I respond? Step 3, take the action that matches that version of you. Step 4, release the situation emotionally, knowing the bridge is holding. Over time, these tests become less dramatic, because once the field knows your new state is stable, there's no need to check it. And instead of fearing them, you start to welcome them. They become proof you're close to a shift, not signs you're failing. Now that you understand the test, the smartest move you can make is to reinforce your new frequency daily, so you pass without hesitation. That's where the power of ritual comes in next. Now that you know the test, here's how to pass it. Daily rituals that rewire the universe's response to you. The fastest way to collapse back into an old reality after a breakthrough is to neglect the frequency that got you there. The most reliable way to hold your new reality steady and grow it is through consistent energetic maintenance. But here's the key. Not all consistency is equal. Repetition and ritual are not the same thing. Repetition is going through the motions. It's doing something over and over without presence. It's checking a box. Ritual is charged repetition. It's infused with intention, emotion, and awareness. It's a deliberate tuning of your frequency. The difference is the difference between humming a song absent-mindedly and performing it with full expression. The energy behind the act is what the field responds to. Most people start with ritual. They're excited about a new affirmation, meditation, or journaling practice. It feels fresh. It feels potent. But over time, if they're not mindful, it turns into repetition. They're saying the words, but not feeling them. They're writing in the journal, but not connecting. They're meditating, but drifting into mental noise. At that point, the frequency weakens, not because the practice is wrong, but because the signal is flat. A ritual works because it's a state activator. It's less about the activity itself, and more about the shift it causes inside you. Here's the filter. If you finish the practice and your energy feels different, more coherent, more open, more abundant, it's a ritual. If you finish and feel exactly the same, it's repetition. So how do you keep ritual alive? 1. Rotate practices. Don't let them get stale. If your affirmation feels dull, reword it. If your visualization feels repetitive, create a new scene. 2. Engage the senses. Add sound, scent, touch, or movement to anchor the state more deeply. Light a candle. Play a certain song. Use a specific pen for journaling. 3. Be fully present. Treat the time as sacred. No rushing. No multitasking. 4. End with embodiment. Carry the state into your next action, so it's not something that ends when the ritual ends. The most powerful rituals are simple and repeatable without strain. They become part of the rhythm of your life. Not something you try to do, but something you look forward to because of how it feels. When you do this, you're not just holding your frequency, you're training it. So the field learns to recognize you in this state. And that's when manifestation feels like it's accelerating, because the universe is responding to a steady, clear, magnetic signal. But what happens when you're doing all the right things, holding your state, and the desire still isn't showing up? It's not always resistance. Sometimes it's timing, and timing operates on a deeper law. Let's open the vault. You've done everything right, and still nothing. Let's explore why some manifestations are hidden behind divine timing. There's a frustrating pattern many people experience in manifestation. They're clear on what they want. They've aligned their state. They've acted in inspiration. And still the thing doesn't arrive. Weeks pass. Months. Sometimes years. It's tempting to conclude, it's not working, or this isn't for me. But often, what's really happening is that your desire is in the quantum vault. The quantum vault is not a place of punishment. It's a safeguard. Some desires are so intertwined with your growth, your alignment, and the ripple effect they will create, that they are time-locked until certain conditions are met. Those conditions aren't always external. They're often internal calibrations. The universe isn't holding your desire back to frustrate you. It's ensuring that when it arrives, You can hold it without collapse. Here's why this matters. Manifestations aren't just about getting something. They're about becoming someone. And if the someone you are now can't yet sustain the reality you're asking for, the field will delay delivery until the alignment is stable. It's like giving a brand new driver a high-performance race car. The potential for disaster is too high. Better to let the driver master the basics first, so when they do get the car, they thrive in it. The vault often has three main locks. One, frequency lock. The desire matches a certain emotional baseline you haven't stabilized yet. You can reach it temporarily, but not live there consistently. 2, identity lock. Your self-image still contradicts the reality you're asking for. You might feel like an imposter if it arrived today. 3, ripple lock. The arrival of your desire will affect others or trigger events in ways you're not yet ready to navigate. The way to open the vault isn't to push. It's to become the version of you for whom the desire is simply normal. This doesn't mean giving up on it. It means making your life so aligned, so coherent, so whole right now, that when the vault opens, the desire integrates seamlessly. Sometimes, you'll notice a shift without warning. Something clicks inside you. A perspective changes, a fear drops, and suddenly, the thing you've been waiting on for years appears in days. That's the vault opening. Not because the universe finally heard you, but because you finally became the version of you it's been holding it for. And when the vault opens, there's one more key step. You have to let it in without questioning whether you deserve it or whether it's too good to be true. That's receiving mode. And that's next. You've sent a signal. The universe responded. Now, can you hold the frequency to let it in? Most people think manifestation ends when the desire arrives. But there's a hidden truth. Many desires never fully land, not because the universe didn't deliver, but because the receiver wasn't actually in receiving mode. Here's the paradox. You can want something deeply, align your frequency, see it on the brink of arrival, and still unconsciously block it at the very last moment. Why? Because receiving is a skill. It requires as much energetic openness as sending the signal did. Receiving mode is a state where you believe you're worthy of what you asked for. Trust the form it takes, even if it looks different than you pictured. Allow it to integrate without sabotage. That third point is critical. Many people sabotage at the point of receiving. They get the opportunity, but downplay it. They meet the partner, but doubt the connection. They land the client, but raise the fear of losing them. Receiving is not passive, it's active receptivity. It's saying yes without hesitation. It's claiming without apology. It's allowing joy without the mental disclaimer that something might go wrong. And here's the thing. Your body knows when you're in receiving mode. It feels like openness in your chest, relaxation in your shoulders, expansion in your breath. It's the opposite of tension, grasping, or bracing. To enter and stabilize receiving mode. Step 1. Drop the chase energy. If you're still chasing, you're signaling lack. The chase must stop before receiving begins. Step 2. Practice small receptions. Say yes to compliments. Accept help without guilt. Savor small blessings. This trains your system to accept without contraction. Step 3. Remove the but filter. Stop softening your joy with phrases like, I'm happy, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. That language instructs the field to withdraw the delivery. Step 4. Live as if it's normal. The more you normalize the reality you want, the more naturally you let it in when it shows. One more thing. Receiving mode isn't just about one manifestation. It's about becoming the kind of person who can hold abundance in all areas. When you master this, manifestations stop feeling like big breaks and start feeling like the natural flow of your life. But to keep that flow clean, there's something you must do. Close the loops that are still draining your energy. That's quantum completion. Unfinished dreams drain power. Let's complete, clean, and clear your field for a fresh magnetic slate. Think of your mind and energy field like a computer. Every incomplete task is an open tab. Every unresolved relationship is a running program. Every half-finished intention is background processing power being drained. And just like a computer, The more tabs and programs you have open, the slower your system runs. Quantum completion is the practice of closing the open loops in your field, mental, emotional, and energetic, so your full bandwidth is available for the reality you're consciously creating. This isn't about forcing closure where it's not ready. It's about being deliberate about what you're still holding on to. An open loop can be a project you keep meaning to start or finish, but never do. An intention you've been holding for years without action. A conversation you've avoided. A dream you've quietly given up on, but never released. A commitment to yourself you keep breaking. Each of these is a thread pulling on your energy, and the field responds not just to what you want, but to everything you're still tied to. Here's why it matters. When you have too many open loops, your signal becomes fuzzy. Part of you is focused on a new reality, but part of you is still entangled with the old. The result? Mixed messages to the universe. Quantum completion starts with awareness. Step 1, list your loops. Write down everything you feel unfinished, with big or small. Don't judge, just get it out. Step 2, decide to complete or release. If it still matters, set a clear date and action to complete it. If it doesn't, release it consciously. Write it down, thank it, and let it go. Step 3, take one loop at a time. Closing loops isn't about doing them all at once. It's about regaining capacity with each one you resolve. Step 4, maintain a closed-loop lifestyle. Before committing to new things, ask if you have the energy to complete them. Here's the hidden benefit. Every time you close a loop, you get an immediate surge of clarity and lightness. Your field becomes more coherent, and in that coherence, manifestation speeds up because the universe finally has a clear channel to respond to. When your loops are closed and your field is clean, you can step into the next phase, keeping your magnetism stable no matter what. That's where we go next. You've reached the frequency. Now let's make sure you stay there and thrive. Getting into alignment can feel like a breakthrough. You sense the shift. The world responds. Things flow. But here's where many people trip. They treat alignment like a one-time win instead of an ongoing state. They have a great week of energy, then slowly slip back into their old baseline. That's why magnetism maintenance matters. It's about sustaining the state that attracts what you want, long after the initial excitement fades. Magnetism is not about hype or constant high energy. It's about coherence, your mind, emotions, and actions sending one unified signal. When that signal is clear and steady, you attract more with less effort. When it wobbles, attraction slows or scatters. There are 3 pillars to maintaining magnetism. 1, daily state calibration. Just like brushing your teeth, your energy needs regular upkeep. Start your day by intentionally choosing your frequency through meditation, movement, journaling, or any ritual that connects you to your desired reality. 2, rapid recalibration. No one stays aligned 24/7. The skill is noticing when you're slipping and correcting quickly before it becomes your new baseline again. 3, strategic environment. Your surroundings either reinforce your frequency or erode it. This includes your physical space, the people you interact with, and even the media you consume. Here's a truth that will save you frustration. Maintenance is easier than rebuilding. It takes less effort to keep a clear signal than to repair one that's been fuzzy for months. So, you make it part of your identity. I'm someone who maintains my magnetism. That means you catch subtle leaks, like self-criticism, overcommitment, or too much exposure to other people's negative energy, and you seal them before they drain you. One of the best ways to maintain magnetism is through energy check-ins. Pause a few times each day and ask, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? If it's not your chosen one, shift in the moment, breathe, recall your vision, move your body. Over time, this turns alignment from something you work on into something you live. And here's the thing. Once you master magnetism maintenance, you begin to see how your energy doesn't just shape your reality. It shapes the reality of everyone you interact with. That's when you start to understand the idea of legacy energy and why it matters far more than you think. Now that you're aligned, realize this. It's not just about you. Your energy writes code into the future. We tend to think of manifestation as personal. You set an intention. You align your energy. You receive the result. But your frequency doesn't end with you. It ripples outward. Every signal you send shapes the field around you, influencing the possibilities available to others. And those ripples can last for generations. This is legacy energy. It's the idea that the state you live in doesn't just create your life. It sets patterns that others pick up, consciously or unconsciously. You've seen this in families. Patterns of scarcity, struggle, or chaos passed down, not through DNA alone, but through energetic modeling. Likewise, patterns of possibility, ease, and abundance are just as contagious. When you shift your baseline frequency, you're not only upgrading your own timeline, you're altering the timelines of those who come after you. Every child, partner, friend, or even stranger you interact with is influenced by your energetic code, sometimes subtly, sometimes profoundly. Think of your frequency as writing code in a shared operating system. The more coherent and empowered your code, the more it stabilizes and upgrades the system for others to build on. That means your daily choice to maintain alignment is not selfish, it's service. Legacy vibes also extend beyond people. They affect the opportunities, collaborations, and innovations that can emerge in your community, your industry, and your culture. When you embody possibility, you unconsciously grant permission for others to do the same. When you normalize a high vibe state, you make it easier for others to believe it's possible. And here's the deeper truth. Legacy energy works both ways. If you hold a low-frequency pattern long enough, it can be inherited, energetically and emotionally, by those in your orbit. This is why your alignment isn't just about creating your own dream life. It's about breaking cycles and starting new ones. So the question becomes, what energetic legacy do you want to leave? Do you want people to feel more open, more confident, more abundant after encountering your energy? Or more drained, more doubtful, more constricted? Every interaction is a chance to choose. When you begin to think of your alignment as a contribution, your motivation to sustain it grows. It's no longer just about attracting what you want. It's about upgrading the field for everyone. And when you see the universe as your co-creator in that mission, the relationship changes forever. That's where we're going next. No more begging. No more hoping. Let's reframe the universe as your co-creator. Many approach manifestation like they're filing a request to a distant authority. They ask, they wait, they hope they've been good enough to get what they want. This mindset subtly keeps you in a position of disempowerment. It makes the universe seem like a gatekeeper instead of a partner. The truth is, the universe is already collaborating with you every second. Your energy sets the tone. The field responds. You adjust. It adjusts. It's an ongoing exchange, not a one-time transaction. When you see the universe as a collaborator, everything shifts. You stop pleading. You stop sending out signals of desperation and start communicating from confidence. You stay responsive. You recognize signs and feedback as conversation, not random events. You co-author outcomes. You hold your vision while staying open to the universe's creative input, which often exceeds your original plan. Think of it like a dance. You choose a direction. The universe brings the rhythm and opportunities. You move with them. It's fluid. It's alive. In this dynamic, trust becomes easier because you know you're not creating alone. You have a constant partner in shaping reality. This also means letting go of the outdated idea that the universe knows best in a way that overrides your desires. The universe reflects your frequency. It doesn't override it. If something different shows up than what you pictured, it's not because you've been denied. It's because the field is showing you a more resonant version of the essence you asked for. To strengthen this partnership, Step 1. Acknowledge feedback daily. When something aligns, thank it. When something misaligns, note it without judgment. It's information. Step 2. Speak to the universe naturally. Drop the formality. This isn't about affirmations alone. Talk to the field as you would to a trusted collaborator. Step 3. Act on intuitive nudges quickly. When inspiration hits, move. Speed of response keeps the dance in rhythm. The more you live this way, the more your life feels like a fluid exchange instead of a constant uphill push. And when manifestation becomes this natural, it stops being an occasional event and starts being your lifestyle. You've become the magnet. Now, let's ensure this isn't just a peak, but a permanent paradigm. For most people, manifestation feels like a spike in energy, a burst of focus, a shift in state, a result, and then a return to normal life. That cycle is why their results are inconsistent. They treat manifestation like a special project instead of the foundation of how they live. The power loop is what happens when you make manifestation your ongoing operating system. It's a self-sustaining cycle where every result feeds more alignment, which feeds more results. Here's how the loop works. Aligned state. You start from coherence in thought, emotion, and action. Clear signal. That state sends a steady message to the field. Manifested reflection. Reality responds with experiences matching your signal. State reinforcement. The results confirm your alignment, which strengthens your state. Loop repeats and expands. Each cycle builds momentum, making manifestation effortless. The power loop doesn't mean you never face challenges. It means your default state stays aligned enough that challenges become temporary ripples, not derailments. To make the loop permanent, you need to remove the concept of on and off. When it comes to your manifestation practice, there's no off switch. You're always broadcasting, so you consciously choose what to broadcast every day, without exception. 3 keys to sustaining the loop. 1. Ritualized alignment. Even once results are flowing, you maintain the habits that keep your frequency stable. This prevents the common drop-off after a big win. 2. Integration of lessons. Every manifestation teaches you something about your signal. You integrate the insights so each cycle becomes sharper. 3. Expansion mindset. You don't stop at one fulfilled desire. You allow the loop to keep upgrading all areas of life simultaneously. When you live in the power loop, manifestation becomes less about getting things and more about being the version of you that reality can't help but respond to positively. At this stage, there's one final truth to anchor into, the deepest shift of all. You're not sending the signal. You are the signal. That's the final transmission. At last, the truth. You were never sending a message. You are the message. The universe always responds to the real you. From the beginning of this journey, we've spoken about signals. How to send them. How to clear them. How to align them. How to make sure they reach the field without distortion. But here's the truth that sits beneath everything. You've never actually been sending anything. The universe is not reading your wish list. It's reading you. You are the signal. This is the deepest level of manifestation mastery. Understanding that every thought, every emotion, every micro-choice, every way you carry yourself, it's all part of a single transmission. The field doesn't separate your manifestation moments from your normal moments. It responds to the totality of your being. That means alignment isn't a switch you flip when you want something. It's the baseline you live in, not performance, not a routine you put on. An integrated state that exists whether you're visualizing your dream life or brushing your teeth. Think of your life like a broadcast tower. The tower doesn't send one frequency when it wants to, and another the rest of the time. It's always broadcasting. The only question is, what's the quality of the signal? Is it strong and clear, or is it static-filled, cutting in and out? The clearer your signal, the more effortlessly reality organizes around you. Here's the liberating part. When you realize you are the signal, you stop trying to manifest in the traditional sense. You stop trying to force specific outcomes. Instead, you focus on being the version of yourself whose natural frequency pulls and aligned experiences as a matter of course. You stop asking, how do I get this thing? And start asking, what's the version of me for whom this is normal? Then you become that version, not through pretending, but through genuine shift in thought, feeling, and action. This is why all the techniques we've covered, tuning your frequency, clearing subconscious interference, living in alignment, reading universal feedback, were never about making the universe give you something. They were about refining you. Because the more coherent you become, the more naturally you attract. The universe doesn't choose to respond. It can't not respond. It's physics. Frequency meets frequency. Signal meets signal. At this point, you no longer fear delays. You no longer chase signs. You no longer worry about missing your manifestation. Because when you are the signal, you know the field will always return what you are being. You simply keep being it, and reality keeps reflecting it. Living this way feels different. You make decisions without second-guessing, because they come from alignment. You stop oscillating between hope and doubt, because you're no longer hoping, you're embodying. You find joy in the present, not because you've given up on the future, but because you know the future is already encoded in who you are now. And that's the ultimate irony. The moment you fully become the signal, you no longer need the manifestation to feel complete. And that's exactly when it arrives. From here forward, there's nothing to practice in the way you once thought. There's only choosing, in every moment, to return to coherence, to stay in clarity, to live as the you that reality can't help but align with. That's the final transmission. The universe isn't receiving your request, it's mirroring your state. You are the code. You are the broadcast. You are the signal. And now the field is already listening.